Hey guys, Zach Clarida here. This is the podcast Love Over Fear, where we talk about a bunch of different topics. It's kind of like a little think tank to present concepts, ideas, people's lives, anything like that. And today we have Darryl Clark. He's a dance instructor here at SIU, Carbondale. And we're really lucky to have him, and thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
All right. And do you want to introduce yourself at all?
Sure. My name is Darryl Clark. I'm assistant professor of musical theater dance at SIU Carbondale. I've been in the position since 2016. Since being here and becoming this teacher to these kids in the musical theater program, I've also moved up a little bit and have worked extensively with the student dance company as their faculty artistic director. I have also taken on co-directorship of the musical theater program, and it's been a very interesting, sometimes bumpy ride, because that's what higher ed is all about. It's not easy, but the results are something I think that everybody can always be proud of. So that's me in a couple of sentences.
There you go. So I just wanted to open it up with asking you a question. What's it like for you? What's your experience so far teaching at SIU?
All right, so what's it like being at SIU? This is not a negative thing, but I was teaching at Missouri State, which is in Springfield, Missouri, so that is like a lateral move. I didn't go up, I didn't go down, I just kind of went over. So there was no culture shock, but at the same exchange, there was no gaining of anything new. It was almost like everything stayed the same, except, the students were maybe a little bit younger. The studio was maybe a different configuration, but it was just basically the same. So in that respect, nothing was different. There's still like a church for every street corner. I'm 45 minutes away from the Missouri-Illinois border, so that hasn't changed if I need to get my Missouri fix, and I have, because I worked over at SEMO on a project that we can talk about a little bit later. But I worked over there in October, and so, yeah, I managed to maintain some kind of contact there. I keep going in and out of the state because the American College Dance Festival happened at the Missouri State campus in 2018, 2019, one of those years. And it was 2019, and I've just been in there so many times, it's like I've never gone. As a matter of fact, these are Missouri State sweats that I have on. I thought they were just plain maroon sweats, but they're not.
Yeah, it's got the colors at least.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah. So, I met you in ballet.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to start out some form of dance, and the options were jazz, modern, or ballet. And then, of course, they said now it's only modern, the one I wanted to do, was only going to be offered in the spring.
Right.
So then I had to choose between jazz and ballet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if I want to start out in dance, I think that a really good way to get my fundamentals would be ballet.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I started out there, and whenever I got to learn from you, it was really an awesome experience. I learned that ballet is not for me. It's definitely something I would like to, that I liked to learn about. And so I just want to know what was your history of getting into into dance.
Into dance? Okay, well, I can't think of a minute when I didn't want to dance. And I think that I took my first classes when I was 14 years old. Yeah, a lot of the studios, I grew up in Chicago. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I grew up in Chicago. A lot of the studios in Chicago on the north side would offer a week of free dance classes as a promotional. And I went and sampled one at a studio that doesn't exist anymore on Clark and Wrightwood called Movement of Foot. And it was in a storefront, and I took this musical theater class, interestingly enough, from a man by the name of Stan Simon. And it had a little bit of tap in it, a little bit of jazz, and I was nervous and scared as shit, of course, but I walked in, did the class, and actually felt like for the first time I actually knew what I was supposed to do with my body physically, because gym didn't work unless it involved running. I was always picked last for a team. That sucked. It sucked in ways that I don't think anybody will ever understand unless you've been in that position.
I understand it
Yeah,
completely.
It's awful. And I hope that that has been outlawed. As a matter of fact, that'd be something that if AOC wanted to like get that introduced as a bill into Congress, she could do that. Anyways, I I couldn't catch balls. I couldn't hit anything. So I got this physical thing from running, and then eventually, I mean, it was short distance running. It wasn't like long distance. Like it was a burst of energy that it took. It took me somewhere. Yeah. So dancing did that, and but it did so much more because there was a history, there was a sense of identity, there was a sense of community, and of course, no one in my immediate family wanted me to do it. So therefore, I was kind of like doing it on the sly. Now there's all kinds of stuff that kids do in after school special, ABC after school specials where it's like the kid has a sad to say has like an eating disorder, or the kid is getting in peer pressure from gangs or whatever. But here I was trying to take dance classes on the sly, right? So every 4 months I'd find out if a studio was offering free dance classes, or if Columbia College had some kind of like event to go to where you could go and meet choreographers or master teachers. And that's how I took dance through high school until I got to my junior year, where there was a dance class that was offered as part of the curriculum in phys ed. It was offered, though, in a dance studio that you had to walk through the door to the girls' locker room in order to get to the studio. So there was like 10 times more stigma to be dealt with. So yeah, it's like when Marvin Hamlish wrote that fucking song, "What I Did for Love," he just didn't know what he was writing, because to walk up those stairs every day and take those dance classes, and to have to come out and deal with that shaming, and for like 2 years, it was a 2-year process. I was in it, do or die to win it. I knew what I was meant to do after that. And then I found the program at Columbia College, and there was no looking back, for better or for worse. This choice of career has probably been the longest relationship I've ever had. So yeah.
Well, that's really a beautiful story of like finding your passion. Like a lot of people aren't lucky enough to find it, especially at like a young age.
Right. No, of course not. No.
Like for me personally, whenever I was like trying to search for mine, it was very confusing because at first I was like, I want to be a police officer because I want to be able to help people.
Right.
And then I was just like, I felt like that was really misguided. And same with like, I wanted to go into the armed forces, but my reasoning was really bad. Like I was like, I want a gun.
Yeah, that's not a reason why you go into the armed forces.
Yeah. I was just like, I want to, because I saw lots of war movies and I was like, oh, that would be so cool. But then you get older and then you're like, no. So then I went from like police officer, armed forces, to electrical engineer to a geologist. And that's how I got started in SIU. Was I actually wanted to be a geologist, learn about rocks, and rock formations and all these different things. And then the more I learned about it, I realized this isn't really a passion, this is just an interest.
Right.
And so I was at the time making YouTube videos. And I just had a little GoPro that I put on my motorcycle helmet.
Right.
And I would just ride around making silly, stupid videos that made no sense. And I would like have these business cards like GoPro and all this stuff, and I would do stupid things like at traffic stops or whenever a train was going by and there was like a line of cars. I would just like get off my motorcycle and hand cards to people and be like, check out my YouTube channel. I'm just riding around on a motorcycle, and that's how I got started. And then I think it was like the beginning of my second year in SIU, and I was working for Long Branch Cafe here in Carbondale as a cook, and I noticed that they weren't getting like so many college students. Of course, there were some, but the problem was that like my friends that I was around, whenever I talked about Long Branch, and they ask you about like what's at that restaurant, what kind of restaurant it is. I'm like, it's a vegetarian vegan one, and then there's a whole stigma about that between some people, and so then I was like, they need a commercial. They need to like get at college students. So then I decided to talk to my boss, and we discussed it, and she's like, well, how do you think we'll present it? You think we'll put it on TV? I said, no, we're not gonna put it on TV. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on online sources like Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, just to get to the college people. Because like we got Netflix.
Right.
We've got Hulu, something like that. We're not paying $80 for Dish or cable.
Right.
So we don't have that. So no, that's not really gonna get out there. But if you put it on Facebook and stuff, and then like actually put money into AdSense and stuff like that, then we can like actually get a little bit more of the thing. So then I decided to make a little survey of like what people's favorite parts of the restaurant were and everything. I hand out about 100 of those. And then I put them all together, tallied up what their favorite foods were, and then, like people were saying like the atmosphere was why they kept coming back, where they heard about stuff. And so then I tailored this commercial idea to how the surveys were. And so then after I tailored it, I storyboarded it out, and then I presented it to my boss. And then her business advisor and I and her were all just talking, and then they were like, yeah, we'll hire you. And then I was just like, what? I'm just a kid with a camera, but okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so then I got started, and I remember, like, sometime in the middle of shooting, I was just outside shooting their patio, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. I am having a blast. I don't want to really do anything else. Like, this just feels right.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in the zone. Like with my hyperfocus, that's why my business is called Hyperfocus Arts, is because I have ADHD, and sometimes I get into this hyperfocus thing when I'm really passionate about something, and I focus on that solely, and I just go hardcore. And that's where I was, and then in the middle of it, I was just like, there it is.
Yeah.
So then I got on my phone, and I called my mom, and I said, I'm switching my major. And she says, to what? I said, film? And she's like, oh, please. At least keep the geology as a minor. I was like, I don't think so.
What a waste of time.
Yeah, and I was like, I think I'm gonna minor in animation maybe. So I did, and that's like my story of finding my passion. And it was really weird because I had this like weird bunch of transitions.
Right.
And it's like really interesting to see that you just got to have that and knowledge like at a young age, and you knew.
Oh yeah.
So that's like just awesome, because I know some of my friends are still like,
right,
I have no idea what I want to do, which is fine.
Yeah.
You'll find it one day.
Right.
And just like, I don't know, I think it's just really beautiful that you got to get that at a young age.
Yeah. There's a very wise woman who you might know through English classes named Nikki Giovanni, poet, activist, incredible woman, and she's on faculty in Virginia, I think at VCU, and she does these talks. I guess they would be the 90s version of TED Talks, and she would do them at the Chicago Public Library Cultural Center, and she brought up some kind of anecdote, and she was talking about her son going into his freshman year of college, and everybody's saying, what does he want to be? What does he want to do? She says, hell, I hope he wants to be a freshman in college. And leave it at that. So yeah, I totally get that, and I totally think that there should be no pressure, and I think that there should also be like a thing where there's some kind of assurance or affirmation that even if this doesn't work out, that you can pick up and go another direction with what you want to do too, you know?
I think it would also have been just nice to like at the first bit of like college, and sometimes they like recommend it that you just try some different things, but it's aggravating because then you have to take UCall or you have to take certain classes to get your prereqs out of the way.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that, but once I got to like my final couple of semesters, I already completed my major and minor before like my last semester.
Right, yeah.
I actually had it all finished. I just had to get electives.
Oh, right.
And so whenever I only had electives, that's when I started trying stuff out. I was like mountain biking, Eastern philosophy, and dance classes, the things that I've always been wanting to like learn about, but just didn't have the resources.
Right, yeah.
And so like I think some of the most like amazingly like life-changing kind of classes I took was one, dance, because one, it brought me out of my shell a little bit, and two, like I just got to, I feel what you said about like how you move your body.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, and you're just in it the entire time.
Yeah.
And then, lost train of thought. And then, the other one was Eastern philosophy. And that one was just like, opened my mind to like completely different concepts and ideas that I've never been introduced to before. And that just, it changed my world.
Right, yeah.
So I was just really thankful for that.
Yeah.
So like with the Eastern philosophy, I learned about Taoism, Buddhism. We read the Bhagavad Gita, the Junza, and just like these ideas of reincarnation, like your dharma or the Tao is like your responsibility, your duty, and just like being able to get an experience in that just like lifted everything else, because Western ideas are completely different, because it's like your duty is to God or something.
Yeah.
But in some other aspects and some other religions and other just ideas, is maybe your duty is just existing and your existence and just how your life unfolds.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. And like SIU, nothing necessarily against SIU. I'm just really don't like
Go ahead. I'm just watching the truck. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I don't like institutionalized learning.
Yeah.
I don't like classroom settings.
Right.
I don't like grades and stuff like that. And I'm sure that's how a lot of people are. And regardless, that's just how it is. You just gotta get through it. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But that was like an instance where it kind of just was.
Yeah. The grade only meant something for me, when it was, when I did work, I worked hard, and it was just one more sign of validation. Grad school was really cool, because that was the one where it's like I did it, I worked hard, and it was one thing that was taking me closer to where I wanted to be, which was teaching on a college campus or a university campus, because that was another thing. When I was 10 years old, my uncle came back from the service, and he was taking some classes on the GI Bill at Grand Valley State a summer of my 10th year, and he would take me to his art history class, because I'm sure he did not like the class at all, but it was fun because he was the fun uncle. He had a convertible, and we would take this ride out to Allendale, Michigan, with the roof, with the hood down, and he would play Richard Pryor. And there were so many reasons why he was the cool uncle. But then we would go and sit in this environment where his professor was talking about like Minoan art and Minoan sculpture and cave paintings and the Greeks and all this other kind of stuff, and I was mesmerized. I would be sitting there writing stuff down and taking his notes, and everybody would be looking at me going, what the fuck is this 10-year-old kid doing in here showing us up? And I was in my element. So I knew that had to be like the other thing. I had to wind up in a setting where I would be the person giving this out. And when I went into my first semesters at Columbia College, it only intensified, because the teachers, the way they had it set up, which plays right into Eastern philosophies. But while there were grades, there was about the process, and it was about learning from people who were in what you were doing, actively in it, and not just having come from the field and have now roosted at this place to teach you. So I was learning, there was a company in residence, Mordine and Company, and I was learning from company members everything that I learned: dance technique, dance composition, the history of music, how it applies to dance, performance techniques, rhythm, anything that played into dance, I learned from people who were actually making dances, from the artistic director of the company down to like apprentices who taught like beginning level technique or taught tap dance. Virtually everybody who was on faculty was a member of that company. And likewise, when I took other classes in other disciplines like theater, when I took acting, I learned acting from people who were professional actors in Chicago. I didn't learn from someone who had just gotten a degree to get a degree and then wound up at a university. Right. And at that time, what was most exciting, and now I don't know how I feel about this, I'm somewhat ambivalent about it. Some people didn't even have like bachelors. They were professionals, and that was all they did their whole life. And sometimes it was great. For example, there was a class that was on the books called Traditional Jazz, and that class was taught by people who had danced in the nightclub scene in Chicago back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And right there was a history of dance, African-American performers, African-American culture, African-American history of the Second World War, the Depression, and the Eisenhower era, that like 5 things plus step, touch, pas de bourrée, whatever you're getting from the teacher, if the teacher even calls it that. Because I mean, I didn't take the class. I was only fortunate enough to meet these people, and it was an elective, and it was really crazy that it was not something that I did not access as a class, but at least I got to know them. And they were also, one of them, her stage name was Najwa. She ran a dance company on the south side of Chicago. And that, now that I'm looking back at it, sitting here right now, was a method of saving the community and enriching the community in which that dance company set. Now, this will go public, and somebody will probably call me on that. I'm fine, let's take it to the street. I'm gonna take the street that far, because I don't know about what else she did or what she did or who she was. But there was just so many things just like that in that learning experience. And that was just as valid as anything. And now I'm gonna go. There's this thing now working in musical theater and academe where they encourage, they want us to maintain this professional involvement, which is really difficult. And it gets more and more difficult as you get older. There's a great deal of ageism in musical theater, and there's also a great deal of clannishness in musical theater.
What was that last word?
Clannishness.
Can you tell me what that is?
Family, like clans, like, like making like a clan of people that you will advocate for and you will give opportunities for. And if somebody tries to come in and get work, they're not going to be accepted, or they're going to be scrutinized very, very severely to make sure that they can fit into this clan, rather than do they have the requirements to do the job. And for some strange reason, having a degree is not as valid a requirement as having done like your 10, 20 years dancing on Broadway. And it's like, okay, I will grant you that, but there's ways to get the studio experience still, and still have all this other stuff and the life experience that tumble it all together, and you make one hell of a teacher. And I would like to be able to afford more opportunities to work within my profession while I still have what it takes to walk across the studio and say, okay, it's step, touch, pas de bourrée, and then show the dancers what it looks like, and not be like, well, tell my assistant to go over that step one more time. I would like to not be that choreographer. I want to be the one that can still do it.
And be active in it. And like that, you showed us that one dance documentary. What was it called? Where the woman was getting older and her body was...
Restless Creature, yeah.
Yeah, Restless Creature. That was a really beautiful thing, and and then I remember coming to you and asking you about it, and I was like, what's it like for you? Because I know that you have, like, sometimes you'd be like, oh, my leg kind of hurts.
Oh, yeah, it sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and then you told me, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep doing it. I was like, yes, I love that. Like, just don't stop.
Like, I have a choice, right? I mean, it's like, we don't turn around now. I mean, I've heard of people who say, so-and-so had many years, blah, 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 performing for this ballet company, then they became a doctor. Well, they became a doctor because they came from some money in the first damn place. They didn't, okay? They didn't go and all of a sudden say, I want to be Doctors Without Borders. They either had rich parents or they have a rich mate, one or the other. They're not going through medical school at the age of 50 any other way, all right? There are very little bits and pieces in place to help people. That's another thing. Now, I'm gonna show the ADHD in me.
Wait, you have ADHD too?
It feels like it sometimes, just how I'm about to make this jump. But it really wears me out that students will start at a school like SIU and then have to drop out after a semester or a year because they cannot fucking afford tuition. I don't get that.
It's the saddest thing to watch.
It is.
Then people, they can pay for tuition, but then their car breaks down.
Right.
And then they can't come back.
Right.
And they can't afford to get a new car.
Right.
And they can't afford to even put a down payment on one.
Right.
Like right now, I finished school, and I was lucky enough to finish it and be able to get out of there without having to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, my car broke down like a few months ago. Yeah. And even though I'm out of school, I still don't, even though I have this degree, I still can't get a nice job.
Right,
I'm still
right.
struggling, and my car broke down. Still, I'm biking places.
Yeah.
And my bike keeps breaking down,
Right.
and I keep having to repair it and like doing it myself. And now that like COVID-19's a thing, it's hard to even like get some of my resources, like fix things or
Right.
have a friend come pick me up or anything like
Right,
that.
yeah.
So it's just like I can't imagine what it would have been like had this happened to me if I was in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been much harder.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like, and we didn't have to worry about that. Like, I've learned to shut up about what it costs to go to school in the 1980s. I've just shut my mouth. I don't talk about it anymore because I know that there's like a student out there who's ready to like beat me over the head with a brick when I tell them how little money costs and then how the BEOG and the SEOG that was given through the federal government in the state of Illinois was enough to cover that tuition. And how like, and I am sorry for whoever will hear this, how I pissed away 2 semesters of that and wound up doing a victory lap. And thank God I got the financial aid to do it. But it's just ridiculous, you know, that it's like I was even a little cavalier about it and just be like, oh, I have to go to class today, you know, and it was just like, it was stupid. It was ridiculous. And I realized how valuable that was when I did go back to school to get my master's in dance and know that every class experience is really valuable. You must be there. That is what you're supposed to do. That is what you have to commit to. And then, even so, because I changed state residency, screwed up and had a semester where I couldn't take class. So, and it's like it derails you. You have no. It's like I had no purpose, no life for that semester. They were kind enough to offer me a class as an adjunct lecturer, which I taught, but I couldn't take class. So, and it was not a lot of money, and I still had to somehow figure out with that $2,450 or whatever. That was paid out. Yeah, that was paid out.
Did it shut off? Huh?
Ah!
What happened? The whole thing?
Okay, I've got to.
So anyway, we had a camera malfunction, and we had to kind of restart and reset up. But we're going to get back to what we were talking about before, which was like how hard it is to get an education whenever you don't have like the income for it and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And you were talking about your take on it and like where were we at? You were like back in when you went to college, it was different pricing. And
oh yeah! Oh my God! It was crazy affordable, and it wasn't because of the cost of living. It wasn't like that kind of a thing where it's like, you know, $1 could buy you 2 packs of cigarettes, 3 loaves of bread, and all of it. It wasn't that. It was just the fact that there was a different value that was placed on it, and there was a different accessibility level that was placed on it, and I know that if I had been trying to go to Columbia College and I hadn't been a resident of the state of Illinois, it would have been a different cost. Also, the interesting thing about Columbia College is that it was so many things to so many people, but it was like this incredible conservatory, but also a commuter college, a city college. It was a really strange learning environment.
Amalgamation.
Yeah. Had I chosen to go to Northwestern, I'm sure that those, you know, high 5-digit figure tuitions would have been in play. Had I chosen to come down here to go to school, I'm sure it would have been fairly expensive too. Or U of I. But I didn't choose it. It chose me. Yeah. So it was a different world in that respect. But Columbia always has managed to maintain its place that it was in at that time now. For example, one of the biggest things was that I was very rootless when I got out of high school. Let's stick a pin in that for a second. But I was very rootless when I got out of high school, and a friend of mine I saw at a party one night, and he was like, you know, you're really into dance. You should go to Columbia College. And I went, it's too late. I got to wait at least a semester because I didn't do any of that SAT, ACT shit. I wasn't, you know, it just seriously, it was not there happening for me. And he said, well, you don't need all that. Just go and apply. And I was like, so I get up the next morning and I go down to the 600 South Michigan building and I walk up to the admissions counter and I'm like nervous as shit. And I'm thinking, I would like to apply for I want to be a dance major. And they give me the application. I fill it out. And they went, okay, congratulations, you're accepted. I was like, ah!
Yes.
And And it's still that way. Any person could go to Columbia right now and apply to be accepted and not have to go through this thing. And you don't have to do it, like a year in advance. You could apply to be accepted for that fall semester, like weeks before it begins. I was given a catalog. I was given financial aid forms, and I was told get these filled out immediately. And I did, and then I went back downtown to register for classes, picked my classes. I'll never forget it. The woman who registered me, her name is Mary Walhan. She was a member of Mordine and Company, and she was sitting with a man by the name of Richard Woodbury, who had danced for Mordine and Company. And at that time, he was a charter member, but he was transitioning and getting more into his music, composing and his sound recording, and he's an incredible sound artist. And so anyways, they were sitting there, and I walked up and just kind of plunked this thing down in front of them of all the classes. And they're like, well, this looks good. Okay, we'll sign you up. And I was like, wait a minute, all my friends, I remember people being suicidal about not getting into Tufts and Vassar and shit. And I'm like, just kind of like doing this. It's like, this is, either it's meant to be or this is like some kind of racket and they're gonna like shove me in a hole and I'm gonna be sold into white slavery or something. I don't know. But 2 weeks later, I was in that class, that first class. And now this is where it becomes a poor little boy from the South. Our apartment was 45 minutes away from the dance center of Columbia College. I walked to my first classes and walked home that night and walked every class. I never took the bus. I only took the bus when I had to go downtown to the main campus or took the L. And it was truly different. It's still that way though. If you had to be that person who had to walk to Columbia, they'd still accept you and you'd still make it work. That cannot happen in any college town. I know it can't, just because of what you said about if a person that loses their car, they're sunk. I mean, I'm like, get your ass up and walk to class. I don't even get that, and well, there's the proof in the pudding. I don't even know what an automobile is. So I don't understand that, I'm lost on that one.
Yeah, it's actually, I actually was surprised at how easy it is to not have a car.
Yeah.
Well, except for whenever I need to go get groceries or something like that.
There it is.
But my roommates, they have cars, so then
Right,
I just go with them. But currently, I don't have a car. I haven't had for like the last couple months, and so I've just been, like I said before, on my bike and stuff. And it's actually pretty nice because I get up and I'm actually active, especially since I'm just laying around, not doing a whole lot with being the locket in order.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whenever I need to go do something, like if I have a project with clients or anything, they see me like riding up on my bike, and they just drove up in their cars and stuff, and I just got everything on my back, and I'm just like, I'm committed. Like, I'm here. Let's do this.
Let's do this.
And like, there is no, and that's what it was for you. You were like committed to do the thing. And I think that my experience for choosing a college was kind of similar.
Yeah.
Just in the fact that, like, you said that yours kind of chose you.
Yeah.
Mine kind of chose me because I've been an idiot my whole life, and I still will be. I still will be until I die. The thing is, like, I didn't even really want to go to college.
Yeah.
My mom wanted me to go, my dad and my grandma, everybody wanted me to go, and I was like, all right, I'll do it for you.
Right.
And I'll do it so that nobody could say that I didn't go to college.
Yeah.
So what I did was I just applied to like U of I, a couple of other places, and before I actually got any word back from any of the other ones, like I think there was also Elmhurst and stuff like that, I just decided to go with my mom to see how much it would cost to go to SIU. And it turned out it was perfect for me. And it was like chosen. I practically got paid to go to college.
Right, yeah.
I know nobody else has that experience, but it's just with financial aid and just like how my family is, we couldn't afford it without financial aid. I wouldn't have gone to college if it hadn't worked out like the way it was. And so just because of that, I was like, yeah, I'll go to college. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
I'll sign up for classes. And so I started, and then as I told you, I don't like institutionalized learning. I don't like how it is. And so like it got to the point where like the whole like last 2 years, I was just like, I hate college. I don't want to do this. I don't even want to be here. I just want to finish. I'm like on my last legs, and I was going through like depression and stuff that it just had a huge effect on like my my ethic on, like my work ethic for going there. And I was just like, and it sucked. But as soon as I graduated, I was just like,
It got hot.
Oh.
Just messaging.
all right, guys. So another technical difficulty occurred. Sorry. If it happens again, we're just gonna cut the video and just go straight to audio, and you guys can enjoy some little animations I make. Sorry about that.
Okay, fantastic.
And so let's just start off whatever we want to talk about now.
Okay.
I think we were talking about just how difficult it was in school and stuff like that. And then I think, what was it we decided we were going to talk about afterwards?
We didn't. That's the thing.
I remember telling you, like, I was like, oh, I want to move to this point where,
You guys were talking about how if you go to Japan,
Yeah, we did that.
Mhm.
We took care of that.
Yeah.
And we took care of what, for the most part, of what's going on with colleges and universities. Although we won't be able to see that, like, taken into any kind of action.
I actually have a question though.
What?
So like now that you're gonna still be teaching dance this upcoming semester, so like how is this pandemic gonna change that? 'Cause
Oh God.
That's a great
Fuck yeah, it's gonna be awful. For me, it's gonna be awful. I belong to a couple of groups on Facebook that address issues that dance teachers have. One is called the Dance Teachers Network, and a lot of people are trying to do classes via Facebook Live and Zoom and some other interactions that you can have via the internet, sure. And I find them to be very frustrating. It's impossible to figure out how to give corrections unless the process of giving a correction is very time consuming. For example, I record whatever material is going to be covered in class. Then the students take the class. Then they send me back images of themselves taking the class. Then I send them their corrections. So what takes no more than 5 minutes now takes almost 5 hours in order to be able to give them information to work with. So that's going to be tough.
especially if people have different varying internet connections or technology.
Yes, absolutely. Now they have been saying, and this is why I wish that the administration at the school would get on one page and get on that page as quickly as possible, that what they want to do is they want to be able to limit the number of people that are inside of a classroom, so there won't be any more than 10 people in a classroom at a time. So large lecture courses probably are going to have to find some very creative way of happening through a combination of using online lectures and doing in-time lectures. Activities that have large audiences are not going to be able to happen probably. So there won't be homecoming. There won't be any performances in the fall. We so have to get ready for this. It would be awfully nice if whatever the higher ups that have nothing to do with this university in particular, but have something to do with the entire state university system, will be ready to be able to dole out money so that events like our performance season in the theater department can somehow be taken care of financially. If that can be dealt with the same way people are getting stimulus payments, then that's the way that has to be dealt with, because we do make a large portion of our income, our production budgets, from our ticket sales. And that was going to have to change anyways, because that was only like McLeod Theater, which is only a house of 500 seats, is never more than 75% filled. The only time it's been more filled than that is when the grade school and high schools were sold tickets to the production of To Kill a Mockingbird, for example. Then that was filled up, but that was a special ticket price. That wasn't like your average ticket price of like $18. It was $5, and it wasn't even the whole show. It was a 40-minute version of the show, so it could be done at that ticket price, and so on and so forth. Same thing when we did Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's the same thing. So we're not charging the full price that we need to charge in order to get that money. When we do this event called Drama Days, we get up to 300 students in, but that, again, when you're expecting to get whatever 500 times 18 is, but you're only getting 300 times 5, you're not getting the money that you need. So we're in this place where we have no choice but to get help. Personally, I don't know how the hell that happened. I always thought, I guess now rather stupidly, that if we were in the performing arts on a university campus, the university took care of our endeavors. I see that's not the case anymore. We lost our gallery for a while. We don't have the rich opportunities for different types of performances. We just don't have that at this university, so it's going to prove to be very interesting. And I hate to be this person, and I guess I'm just going to have to go do some chanting or rub my beads or something, but I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I did a class on Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm just kind of like talking to myself for an hour, teaching this tap class. I need people in the room with me.
Interactivity that's lost.
It's a community-based thing.
Yes, it is.
What about students that like those performances, like whether theater or even dance, like isn't that kind of like a good resume builder, like getting people to like see them perform?
Oh yeah, they have no choice but to do that. That's how it starts. As a matter of fact, there are some kids who are graduating who were holding on to credits that they'd gotten in high school, and both of us as directors of the musical theater program were like, okay, those have to come off of your resume and your website like yesterday, okay? You don't need them anymore, and just take them off. And so this is a builder. And there's some things that are inside of our programs where we plan for a season to make sure that everybody gets a sizable role in order to be able to put on that resume. Some people will get leads, and that's great for them. But some people get supporting roles. As long as it's a recognizable part, it's a good thing. And then it helps them get their summer jobs. It helps them out. So, yeah, they need that. And we're taking away, we're not, this is weird. We're going to try not to take away the performance experience, but we don't know how we're going to show the performance. Right. Like I was talking with the SIDC about this. And I was like, you all need to be ready for the fact that your performance may have to be live streamed. And we might have to open like a Venmo tip jar or something so people can leave whatever money they want to leave, and we have to do it piece by piece, and we have to do it in this really weird way. We don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, that's especially difficult. I've noticed that a lot of platforms like people who are musicians and stuff that had like shows, some of them canceled and some are just like, we're doing EDM live stream. Just watch it on your computer. And that's how a lot of stuff is going right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it looks neat, but I'm just like, okay, this is a different viewing experience. And it cannot become the norm. It cannot become the norm. I don't care how much time it takes to get that train out of the station that's called Broadway. Something else has to happen, and you're gonna have to figure it out. If you want to keep doing this thing, I mean, they're gonna have to, in New York City, they're gonna have to look at it and say, is it viable art or is it show business? And we're gonna have to figure that out, and we're gonna have to figure it out really soon. Like, they're trying to do all these things where they're like saying the spirit of the thing isn't dead, even though we can't have theaters open right now. And it's like, that's a start. You shouldn't be talking about we can't present the Tonys. Fuck a Tony. It's like, that's not what it's about right now. It's like, don't worry about that right now. I don't even see why that's a concern. I think that there needs to be a plan in place to make sure that they can do audiences that will work out, or a variety of online until they can get back to live performances. And for heaven's sakes, make tickets affordable to live performances at this point in the game. It may be a thing of what you are presenting at this point in the game. There may be no time for the next Disney mega musical.
Right. And it's also, you need to keep it affordable just for the fact that a lot of people aren't working right now.
Right.
So it's like, we're not making money. Just the fact that people don't have jobs and can't pay for stuff as much as well. Like, the stimulus check was nice and all, but like, that's not gonna keep me going for most of the end.
And it's gone now, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like, okay, some people, that was just their rent.
Yeah.
And people are trying to go on rent strike, and for me, like, I don't have that option. Like, nobody has that option. And it's like, sure, you're not gonna get evicted, but you still owe these people for like however many months this is gonna go on.
Yeah.
No telling. It could be, it's been 2 or 3 months. It could be like 5 or 6, and now you owe all this money.
Right.
And you've got no way to do it, and now you've gotta, it's gonna keep going.
Right, think of somewhere else to live.
Yeah, so it's just like, you got to keep everything affordable right now, and it's kind of, stinky because it's just like at the same time you need to keep funds for your program.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what they are going to do, and we haven't received any words. I feel that the School of Music was having some concrete discussions about what we're going to do in the fall. Like Dr. Davenport, who conducts choral union and conducts concert choir, she said it's not a problem to work in sectionals, but to put a full concert up is going to be where the problem comes in. And choral union may not be an option because 2/3 of choral union is made up of people who are in that difficult age group for being infected, and so it's going to be a problem. I mean, I wanted to be hopeful about the idea that, we are in a fairly isolated part of the state of Illinois, but I don't think that that's
spread out.
But I don't think that that's going to make any difference. I think that, it's like viruses don't know boundaries. They're not going to be like, okay, well, we'll just infect Chicago because Chicago's so big and so densely populated, but we won't infect, Redbud because there's only, 5,000 people there. No, I don't think it really makes any difference.
They don't care.
Viruses don't care in that respect. And that's like a problem with the current administration, is that I think that those people are under the impression, and I use people very, very, very loosely, are under the impression that this knows where it's going to go and it's going to target this place. It's going to target that place.
Yeah,
and
there is no target.
No, there is
the target
no
is person.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Right. It's like you would think that the world would have learned its lesson with HIV and figured it out. It's like it doesn't target a subculture. It hits the circulatory system. It is transmitted through blood and blood products. It's like you have to figure that out.
Yeah,
it's like,
the problem
or accept that once the doctors have figured that out.
Yeah, the problem with that is like there's also just not just the one problem. There's the many facets and there's like a whole bunch of nuances. But there's also the problem with people just being ignorant about what it is and what's going on. Because I hear a lot of people talking about how it's like, the pandemic, or like, did you do your research about it, or did you just listen to the people, the government telling you what to do and all this stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm all for being like, think about what the government's doing, think about what they're telling you. Like, there's stuff going on that we don't know about, yada, yada, yada. But this is not one of those things. This is the CDC, and they get paid bunches of money each year. They have a budget, and they have scientists look at this stuff, and they're learning. And at the same time, they might give you some information at the beginning that later on they find out like, okay, well, now we know that it doesn't live on surfaces for so long, or whatever it is, whatever's going on. And then people are like, see, now they don't actually know. Of course they didn't know. That's why we're trying to get everyone put indoors. Yeah, they're researching. They're trying to figure this stuff out. That's how stuff goes. It changes. Based on new information, you change that information, and then you plan for that.
Right.
And it's really hard whenever there's people out there protesting, and regardless of your standpoint, it really doesn't matter to me. The only thing is there are problems with doing different things, regardless of how you feel about whether or not it's a real cause for concern to wear a mask or not. The thing is, this is what we're being told, and if you don't go with it, it really isn't helping anybody, because it's like vaccines. It's like a herd immunity. You get it, and if everyone's got it, or most everybody, I can't remember the certain percentage, but the guy who did all this research, there's like a certain percentage to where it'll help not cause a problem, and that's as long as you keep it vaccinated. So it's like, do the same thing with like masks and stuff, but like, I don't know. It's just it's all really mixed up, and people are just doing different things.
It's very hard to keep everything straight because the information is not coming from one source. That's the other issue. If we didn't have social media and we had like just one source where we did gather information, and it was a reliable source, I think it'd be different. Like, for example, one of the professors emeritus of the music program put up this clip of, I think it was David Brinkley, doing his thing on TV and saying like, look at this. This was a newscast back in like 1965. It was like you listened to one person talk, and that was the end of the discussion. And you listened at 6 o'clock before dinner, and then you talked about what you'd heard at dinner with your family if you lived in that situation. And that was basically it. You didn't get the midday. You didn't get the early morning. You didn't get the version that comes from this pundit or that pundit. You didn't get the humorous take on it, which, I don't know, sometimes it doesn't really help when people make fun of where we're at right now, because it just doesn't. It's like you laugh for a minute, but it's like it doesn't give you any information to work with. So it's like you just, if we just could have like one person. I know what's interesting for me is watching MSNBC, that they do talk about one thing. Like every host of a show between 5 and 10 at night talks about the same topic, and you're like, okay, whose take on the topic do I want to watch tonight? Because I know I'm gonna hear the same thing. I just have to decide who I want to watch. Because if I watch them all at once in one evening, I can't take it after an hour and a half. I'm like, I'm done with this. And yeah, it's like, I think that if I had to chapter this part of my life, I'd have to be like, I woke up for this, because this is babble and insanity. It's not what I expected it to be, like getting into the fray and trying to like do my part and help people out and keep people aware, and going out and being at whatever actions that we took at the beginning of the recent administration, and to know now, like reaching out to people going, what are we gonna do? It's like, well, it's kind of like losing momentum. No, can't lose momentum. Like there was no march in January, and I don't even remember why we didn't march in January. We just didn't. It was like, it should not have happened. And I honestly don't even remember what took precedent over not having that happen. But any kind of demonstration that would have been done a couple of years ago, people just don't want to do them now. And now that we can't gather, the groups like Race Unity and what have you don't even meet now. So again, I woke up for this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all been extremely hard on everybody, and I don't know like what. It's different experience for each person, and like regardless of what your outlook on it is, I don't care, because like me, I'm like, I'm gonna do as I'm requested so that I can keep, well, for one, my grandmother safe.
Yeah.
I don't care if I got it. Like I'm one of those. I'm in the ones like that they're saying like usually you can make it out just fine. So great for me.
Care.
Yeah, I do care. I do care, but I shouldn't say I don't care. Like what I'm trying to get at is I'm more concerned of my grandmother's
others,
safety.
right.
Yeah, and so like on the fact that I want to protect others, regardless of how I feel about it, I'm just gonna do what I'm asked.
Oh, right.
And I'm just doing my best. And I mean, it's taking its toll. Like it does on everybody. Like it's no one person has it any worse than anybody else, because we're all going through it.
Yeah, we are.
We're all experiencing it. We're all trying to get through it together. And it's just like, we, like you said before, we just got to figure out how to move forward, and we can't just be comfortable with how things are now.
Right.
We have to figure out a better plan.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hope that they find it for your classes and everything a better way.
So, my God, so do I. Because, and then just to know that they keep, it's like they keep pushing it up and then easing it back down and pushing it up and easing it back down. And our chair, without sounding like I'm complaining about him, but he's got a really bad habit of waiting until the very last minute to give out information, and that's like not a good play to take right now. I think that if there's any advancements that are made, they have to be taken and talked about. Like every time, I wish that what they would do, because none of us are doing anything this summer, especially in theater. And if like Sally Potter McIntyre, she's a professor in geology, I'm sure she was planning on going to like some desert and digging and looking at rocks. She ain't doing that this summer. So we're all just kind of sitting around in this town waiting. So yeah. Until, so every time the chancellor puts out a thing about university communications, we should all take it in, and then we should all cluster and talk about what we're taking in, so that we know that we're getting the information, that we are understanding what's being told to us. And I don't feel like that is being taken, and I guess it's an initiative that I could probably like say to 5 professors, say, why don't we just like get together and talk about the fuck what's going on when we hear it, so we know what's going on with us, and just because that we know, just so we stay in touch with one another. Geez, light bulb, bam! I think I know 5 people from 5 different departments, I think. Well, 3. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing too. It's really sad that we don't communicate across the lines a little bit better. But,
Yeah, I wish you guys would, because like I know some different professors from like film and like other places, and I'm like, oh, if these two professors met, the conversations that would be had and like the ideas that would be thrown forth, and it would be really cool to have like some collaboration and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with this podcast, is kind of like present information from a lot of different sources. And I'm starting at this college just because I'm aware and I know some people, and I'm like, yeah, I want to include this. And so some of that stuff. But like, I have seen, like, you know, there's a lot of separation in just like this stuff, because people are busy, they got their own things going on.
There's that, and then there's also the thing that people want to protect what they have. If they've received X amount of millions of dollars in order to have their program go forward, they're not going to want to necessarily mix that with each other. That's the reason why we couldn't quite, before things got as hairy as they've gotten now, decide on what we wanted to be and how theater wanted to fit into like the projected College of Arts and Media, or whatever they're going to call it. The big discussion was, there's only X amount of dollars, and it's very easy to see how film and television and communications could soak up all that money and leave virtually nothing left over for theater.
But that's the thing. Film, we straight up have not much funding at all.
Right. So I think that
A lot of it goes to like sports.
Which is, you know, like the arts are so underfunded, yet need so much money. It's like equipment and all this stuff. It's
Right.
And then I worked at the College of Business in SIU, and their funding was tremendously different. Like whenever they had these field trips, I don't know career day, they would go shadow under some people for like a day.
Right. It's some loft, that's some like consulting firm or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you'd go to this place that has a lot of money, and then they're like, and then I'm like going in there, and I'm just like, okay, I've come to record this for the College of Business because I make their ads and stuff.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, well, you can't show this stuff on this computer because this is information that we don't want anyone else to have.
Right, yeah.
And so they had to like look through my stuff, and like I remember like we went to the one place in Nashville that's like, it's a giant hotel. It's called like the Grand Ole Opry.
The Grand Ole Opry is like the major tourist attraction in Nashville. Like you don't go to anything but that in Nashville. It's right there.
Is that a hotel though? I think that's what that is.
It's a theater. Like there's a theater. It's an auditorium, but I'm sure they have a whole bunch of stuff that's connected.
Yeah, they do. They have like a water park inside.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised.
They've got bars, restaurants, and I remember like Pride and Prejudice. I think they filmed in there, in one of the like stairways and stuff.
Wow.
And so like, and I heard about the cost of each one of these rooms that we were staying in for the night. And I don't remember what it was, but I was like, holy shit. Yeah. And then there was so many of us. Yeah. And I was like, how can you guys pay for this? And the thing is, they just have alumni that are business people. So what they do is they have funding, and then they're really good at doing this stuff. And then like you have the sports, which are just, you know, so much money is pushed towards that.
Let's not even talk about that.
I'm not even going to really dive into that. But what I was going to lead to was that like so many places are underfunded because like the theater department I've seen has a lot of problems, not like problems, but like underfunding. Yeah. And then ours cinema department, it was a lot of the stuff is outdated. A lot of the stuff that we mess with is some of it's broken, some of it's got problems, and I'm really thankful that I had resources and stuff, but it just needed to be. We just needed a lot more. Right. And like, there are film schools that just have so much more because that's like the whole point.
Oh, right. Like for example, Cal Arts. Yep.
Yeah, and there was a guest guy, Michael Cioni. He's worked in a bunch of different films and stuff, and he works out in I think L.A. Right. And he's an alumni from SIU, and he came back and he was like showing us an 8K camera, Panasonic, showed us how to use it. We filmed the whole thing for a whole day, like a little short film. Got to use the camera, got to learn how to use it, and it was really cool. But one of the things he was discussing with us the day before that, like he was just lecturing, and he's like, you guys, while you don't have the funding that other schools do, there is one thing that you guys do have, is like you just have to learn how to be inventive and intuitive.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, you have no option.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to make do with what you have. And he's like, be thankful for that. And I'm like, yes, but at the same time, it'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
If I could have a light stand that will stay up and I
Yeah.
don't have to tape it, or or like a camera, or if I like rented gear and I knew what I was renting. We have a system whenever we like have to rent it online, and then they have no photos. We don't know what the pieces are, and sometimes I go in there and the people who work in there don't even know what they're handing to me.
Right.
They're like, well, this is this, and I'm like, well, I didn't ask for this. And then they're like, well, this is broken, so we kind of gotta, you have to make do with this.
Right.
And it's just like, be really nice if we had funding to replace those items.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're saying, is trying to figure out what takes priority as far as our resources. For example, I doubt seriously, no matter how much I stamp my foot and yell and scream, that the three things that I would love to have in this whatever new building is going to happen and for auditorium happen, I doubt they're going to happen. I would love it if they would happen, though. Oh my gosh. If for auditorium could, just be aired out and that carpet and that smart cart and that big old hole in the ceiling. I mean, there's just so much that's the matter with for auditorium, and all I can do is keep thinking, somebody's family went through Carbondale High School when that was the high school. Somebody is in Congress somewhere now. Somebody's got something, and they have money that they will help start up a fund to get this building taken care of, because I do not understand how all those classrooms in Pulliam got done the way they did, and they ignored for auditorium. I don't get that. It's all a priority because that building is such a landmark of Carbondale. I don't understand how they ignored it, and they continue to ignore it. Just like it's the Old Baptist Foundation, that church that's right behind Pulliam, and this is Altgeld, and there's like little church. They've done some renovating on that, just enough, but it's like nobody wants to be in that building. It smells like 1937. It's like
I know exactly what you mean.
They've got to deal with those things. It's like, and I know they're not going to be priority.
Yeah, the priority is things like, I'm going to get started on it anyway. The SIU arena. It's no longer the arena, it's the Banterra Center.
Yeah, right.
Because they were like,
well, gave money.
They gave them money, and that's like, okay, now we've changed the name to it. Great. Now we just got a bank going on in what, like, that's where I graduated at, was Banterra Center. No, right. Fuck no. I graduated at SIU Arena, because that's what it is. It's right. SIU's arena. But no. And then there's also the problem with, like, just like what you said with those places, but what is it? Not the student center, the place where you go to that has like student services building. Look at that.
I know.
Absolutely.
And that happened.
Stunning, but like.
That happened 3 chancellors ago. Yeah, because she had it in her mind to make the campus more beautiful.
Yeah. How about you work on what we've got, fix that, instead of trying. That's not even like the important place for us to go to. Like, right. I would like the place where, I know it has a lot to do with FAFSA and like whatever else is in there. I can't think of all the different things, but like financial aid and all these different things. Yes, those are important places, but it doesn't have to be so extravagant and like big. It's so wide open. There's so much unused space.
Yeah.
There's just like emptiness, and then you just fill it with like chandeliers that are just all dangly and stuff. And I'm like, this is cool and all, because it's like, it's the first place that I went to on campus. It's the first thing that the visitors see before they decide to go there. Right. And I see why they would do that. Yeah. But then I get into school, and then I was in geology originally. Right. And so I went to like Parkinson, and you're just like, this reminds me of my high school that was built in, we had the
60s.
Yeah. No, it was like the 30s or something like that. We had our 100th anniversary for that school when I was in high school, and they gave us little rubber bands and stuff that had the thing. and there was like asbestos in the pipes. There was
Yeah.
falling debris from the ceilings. There was they've renovated some of the. They like tore down a section of the building and then put up a new piece,
Right.
and now it looks completely different from what I
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of that, and I'm like, this is a university.
Right.
Like I see how much money gets put into sports and like the student services building. Where is that money going to for whenever I'm actually trying to sit down in a class and have my education?
Yeah, right.
Why don't I have a nice new microscope for whenever I'm trying to look at something? Why are they all so like messed up or broken?
Right.
Why can't I have the resources that I need? And sometimes they're there. And I'm not saying I'm not thankful for what is there, but what it is just like I feel like there should be an allocation of funds differently.
Right.
And it should be less about the look and
Right.
how you want to present yourself, because it feels like what it feels like for our university to me, not for whatever you guys are doing, anything like that. It always felt like one of those people that's online, like Instagram, YouTube, something like that. They're like flaunting money. They're like, yeah, man, I got this whole thing. I got a jet. And what they did was they rented a private jet for a day,
Right.
didn't take it anywhere, just did it to flaunt this stuff, say they're all this hot shit.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I got money for days. I'm doing all this. I got this. And pretty much they're just fronting. And it's just like, how about instead of trying to just act like you're something you're not, just be honest. Be like, we are an education system and we're trying to give you a good education. And
Yeah.
so like, we'll give
Yeah.
you the resources and this is what we are. And just be upfront with you and honest.
Right.
And because I respect that so much more, and I can go to the same, I can still go to SIU if you're just honest with me
Yeah,
and be
right.
like, this is what we are.
Right.
Instead of walking into student services building and be like, oh my God, this is amazing, whoa.
Right.
Who gives a shit?
Right, because you're only going to see that building twice. You're going to see
Yeah.
that building when you visit.
Twice.
Yeah, and you're going to see it again if you have to go in and pick up something your first year, and you never see it again because
Yeah.
everything is handled departmentally.
The only other times that I've been in there is if I had to get something for FAFSA for work because I worked at school.
Right.
Or whenever we had a bunch of protests in
Yeah.
the school.
Right.
And then we went through.
Right.
And I have another video about that. Check it out. SIU protests. And it's like straight up, I wasn't protesting, I just filmed. But they went through and like had this whole problem about like the chancellor and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a previous chancellor. It wasn't the one that's currently here.
No, it wasn't done. It was probably Montemagno. He caused a lot of problems
the
for
one
his
that,
little
like-
time that he was here. May he rest, but
Didn't he like take funds and like create jobs for his family and stuff?
yes, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that like people were having problems with. And it's like, I don't want that in my school, man. I want you guys to stop trying to switch the clock, every single clock that's in SIU towers, the dorms, and it costs like, I can't remember how many thousands of dollars. They just replaced the clocks. And then they were like, you know what? Never mind, get those old clocks back. And what?
Yeah, and that's the kind of money that I'm sitting there going, okay, and meanwhile I'm teaching in a studio that doesn't have proper changing facilities for anybody, doesn't have clean running water.
I remember
is
having-
infested with
yeah.
ants.
I have to
again,
change in like the bathroom
right.
stalls.
Yes, the ceiling. That's the one that always gets me is the ceiling. It's like and the only thing I can say about for auditorium is it has Marley on the floor and. Oh, and my favorite thing about for auditorium is the lack of proper lighting, so you can actually see
I remember.
during the fall semester after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the mirrors. And then here's my biggest frustration is that when you come into a university job, they give you something called startup money, and the startup money I wanted to use my startup money, which I think would have probably been like $10,000, which today sounds like all the money in the world when you don't have work or anything like that. But it was like $10,000, and they were like, you need to make a request to do whatever. And I was like, no, I think that I need to do things that will help me be a more effective educator, so I need to take classes in some stuff. They won't pay for you to take more classes. I'm like, okay, will they pay for me to go to conferences or special workshops? No. But you should request to have things done to these studios that you need to have done, like a sound system, which I never got, by the way, or the mirrors. I'm like, no, that's something that the school is supposed to pay for.
Right? That's not your responsibility.
That's not my responsibility. Because I'm not the only person who uses that space. Students use that space. People come in here and or if we rent the space, which I wish that they would renovate first so we could rent it. If people were to rent that space and want to have a place where they were like doing their recital, for example, and they wanted to do a dance warm-up, they need mirrors and they need bars. It stands to reason you would have the space done in a way so they could use it. They wouldn't have to bring any of that shit in on their own. And it would just be here,
Those are resources that need to be provided.
Yeah.
That's like, why am I paying so much tuition
Right.
if I'm not like getting anything out of it?
Right.
And it's like, I get things out of it, and I don't want to come off as like me being a little agitated about what's going on, as like not being thankful for what we have, because like the resources there were really nice for what I didn't have, and also the people who taught, the professors are fucking amazing. Like, you're one of them, and you were absolutely stunning. I absolutely loved your classes, and like people opened up my mind. The people were very active, and they always wanted you to learn. They always wanted to push you forward, and there were like exceptions. There were some crappy ones.
Right. Ones who probably have stayed too long at the fair, as it were.
Right. And so it's just like it becomes a question of like, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. It's not a question of anything, but like in my little brother's schools right now, they are struggling with funds and stuff, as all public schools are. And let's not get started on what's her name, the lady that is like the head of the.
Oh, the Secretary of Education.
Yeah, what's her name?
DeVos. Oh, bitch.
Yeah.
I call her bitch. Betsy Wetsy.
Bitchy DeVos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she is like she took a lot of funding away from public schools and is putting it into private schools, and her family and people that she works with and her colleagues are people who own private schools.
Right.
So we're losing funding.
Yeah.
And people just aren't caring. You can click it and click it again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That kind of situation is the kind of stuff where it's like, what is a person who just lives in this country can we do? I have signed so many damn petitions online. I'm like, where the hell did these go?
Yeah, what's going on? And it's like straight up, my little brother's school right now is considering, because they're dropping people, and I was told, I'm not going to say by who,
right,
but that they're going to be maybe cutting the art program. The art program. Why are you cutting the art program?
Yeah.
I feel like there's always been a hierarchy of those kind of subjects.
100%. It's like, it's a classism, and that's what I wanted to get to also about education, and we'll dive into that in a minute. Is like, it's strange that they just want to cut the art program. And they're like, we're not going to find the funding. And if you don't have the funding, don't cut the art program.
Right.
Like, try to figure something else out.
Right, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like that program never cost you that much in the first place.
Right.
So why are you cutting it?
Yeah, and
it is. It's like, it's like, I mean, I don't want to see anything go out of a high school.
No, I don't want to see sports go. I don't want to see anything.
No.
Everything needs to be provided, because an education is most important. And don't be like, oh, it's arts, it's not a big deal. Dude, arts controls everything that's around you. Your entertainment, your bike, your table, your architects that build the things around you, your shelters, the people who decide to create science and stuff. And it doesn't matter, it's all art.
It's all art. Or people just talk about it or write about it. Again, an art.
Concepts.
So, perception, culture.
Everything. All of that. Like, 100%. If you get rid of that, people don't get that experience. And and I remember in middle school, and by the way, what I was trying to get to, I'll get to middle school next, and then that other thing. But my source was telling me about my brother's school and how they were going to cut the art program. And then someone else might be cut, this person. And so if that's the case, they don't look at, they were told that they don't look at who does the job best. They look at who's been there the longest.
Right.
And it's like, that's not the way to do it.
No, it's
that's not how you run a system of anything.
You don't thin the herd by the person who just came on the team last. It's like, no. If anything, I'd be inclined to. really keep the new mind and let the person who has been there for 30 years, maybe it's time for that person to retire.
Yeah, maybe like give
less.
a little bit of insight, be like, here's how I've done it, and then like let that other person take the torch, like let's go, let's move it forward. And so that's an incredible thing to me. Like it blew my mind that was even a sentence that came out of that person's mouth.
Right.
I'm like, how? Okay, well, that's insane. And so like this whole thing about like arts and stuff, I remember in middle school, my art teacher, I don't remember her name, it doesn't matter. I don't hold this against her. I was just a vindictive little baby. I was very touchy about everything. I didn't like being told what to do. I had a problem with authority figures when I was growing up. It's just kid stuff.
Yeah.
But as I was in class, I remember I was trying to draw this guitar, and I did it, and then I like colored it exactly how I wanted it. I like looked at it, and I was so excited. And then I was like, it's done, it's ready. And then I presented it, and I was like trying to turn it in, and she like looks at it, and she's like calls me back over. And it's always that thing where it's like, no, you come to me. And I'm like, why can't you just tell me from across the room or like come to me?
Right.
I mean, but okay. So I walk up, and she's like, see this? There's little empty white spaces and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, because that's how I wanted it to be. And she's like, no, you gotta color it all in. I'm like, no, it's not what I want to do. And I don't want to present my art like that. And after a while, we went back and forth, and it's been years, so I can't really remember everything. But I remember ending in the argument where I said, "Give me an F." I don't give a shit. I scribbled all over it. I wrote. I just completely destroyed it. I was like, I was middle school. I probably didn't say fuck you, but I was like, it was my fuck you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, scribble. It's ruined. Give me my F. And I vowed. I said art was stupid. Artists are stupid. I don't like this. And I was like, I'm gonna be a scientist, and that's why I wanted to be like geology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then years later, it wasn't until I got to college. I didn't take any art classes after middle school. Whenever it wasn't required anymore,
Right.
I replaced it with like foreign language, which I appreciate, and like FFA. I didn't give a shit about farming.
Right, but you just decided to do that.
Yeah, as I don't like art, I was like, it's stupid. And then whenever I got to college, and then I realized, oh my God, I'm an artist. I'm a creative person. And I was like, people really affect your life heavily. And imagine if someone just didn't even have that program to even have that experience to begin with.
Right, yeah. And just to think that it just happens. See, that's the problem. It's like, thank you, reality TV, that so many people think that these things just happen, and that it doesn't take hours upon hours to make someone be that good, to be on that show, to do that kind of competition. You know, I won't watch them.
I can do that.
Yeah, of course you can. Or better yet, the one thing I love is that because of the idiotic things that some celebrity says about them, which are all subjective, people think that they have the ability to speak critically about what they're seeing.
Whenever they have no context.
They don't know what they're looking at, but they can speak critically about it. And it's just like, I don't get that.
It's really funny because like, especially since we have online presence and everyone can just blast out their opinion.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I watched this. This is how I feel. I've seen some YouTube movie reviews, and then I'm like, you didn't even watch the movie.
Yeah, it's
like
obvious.
you're just shitting on it. Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't remember who it was on YouTube. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to call anyone out. But I remember they were trying to go against, let's say that Scott Pilgrim versus the World was a piece of shit. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's one of my favorite movies, and I will fuck you up with facts as to why that thing is so fucking incredible, and why Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors. And I'm just like, okay, it's cool. We have an opinion. It's cool that we can like have this conversation, and I like that. I like that everyone has the ability to have a voice, but it's like, you're not just necessarily right. Just because I'm putting this video out here and saying what I have to say doesn't mean take everything I have to say as a grain of salt.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm not an all-knowing entity.
And that's where it becomes where it gets very subjective. Like, because I've never seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I have a copy. I will lend it to you.
Okay, well, I guess I have to watch that. You have to watch The Young Girls of Rochefort then.
Oh, wait, do you have Netflix?
Yeah. I've
think it's
been
on
having
Netflix.
problems with Netflix and Hulu, both of them. I haven't been able to like get signed in and stay signed in. It keeps kicking me out. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm gonna call MediaCom when you guys leave. I'm gonna call them and find out if they can just juice my internet or
Juice
whatever. Well, I don't know what it
Put
needs.
some steroids in there.
Really, put some D-ball up in that motherfucker because I don't know what's going on with it. But I was trying to watch Mrs. America the other night and it wouldn't play. Very frustrating. And then I tried to turn on some music because sometimes there's music apps that I like to listen to on Roku and wouldn't play. And just nothing. So I'm like, and it keeps saying, we need your information. And I'm like, you have my information.
You've already got it. You've got it like 12 times.
Right. So it's like I keep entering shit and it keeps telling me, oops, there's a problem. I'm like,
well, you got the problem.
Obviously, really. Yeah.
You got the problem. My only problem is that you're not working.
Yeah, right. It's like there's nobody I can call about said problem. Because I remember the first time I had a Michigas with my with a Roku, it just wouldn't take the password anymore. It just wouldn't work. It was the most frustrating thing.
There have been like different platforms or different things that I've used, and I've like dropped it just because they give me too many problems. I'm like, well, if your customer service won't even help me out, whatever.
Yeah, and just think that there are some companies where there virtually is no customer service. Like there's no one to talk to.
Oh, speaking of which, of like movies and stuff like that, and streaming sites. Have you? I told you online about Canopy, right?
Yeah, right. Canopy Video. Yeah.
Check out Canopy. Like I don't know what other schools do it, but our school, if you're an SIU student, have access.
You have access to their entire library.
Yeah, to their entire library, your whole life.
Yeah.
And they have amazing films. They have Rashomon on there.
Yeah.
They've got. I bet they might have the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I need to check.
I think they might.
Oh,
Yeah.
they'd have to have that for sure.
Yeah, they have that. They've got.
They've got early Bergmans that have been really hard for me to find that I'd like to see again.
And my all-time favorite movie, the Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator.
Yeah. Which is a movie that, interestingly, as much as I love old movies, I've not seen The Great Dictator.
Oh my God. There's a scene in there that has a speech, and it's the only time he talks throughout the entire movie.
Is it the one where he does where he's like, it's like he's imitating Hitler?
Yes.
You're supposed to be like.
But Hitler really loved Charlie Chaplin, so
Yes.
when Charlie Chaplin was in this role, it was like really.
Yeah, he probably he probably had a major problem with that.
Yeah.
It was one of the most beautiful.
It was the most moving moment I have ever seen in cinema, and I've like seen Pursuit of Happiness. I've seen all kinds of different things, and like I've cried during a bunch of different movies, but this was like a completely different one. I will show it to you after.
So it's
we're
not
done
that
here.
speech. It's because there's like one that he does where it's like he's giving like a political speech and he's doing it with those weird rhythms that Hitler would speak in. There's like that's the clip. Like there's only 2 clips in the movie I'll ever see. That one and then one where he dances with the globe. Those are.
I think the one you're talking about is what he's talking about, because in this movie.
It's very like slam poetry.
Yeah, kind of like that, and it's interesting because it's the only part of the whole movie that he talks, and it's crazy because people were wondering how he's gonna do the because back at his day that transition to where black and white film went from no audio to audio, and they were like he can't do it, and then the only moment where he talks in the whole film, it is the most moving, and it was like the words that he says, I like.
Exactly what Hitler would never say.
Yeah,
Right.
and like what you wanted to hear from someone with that much power.
Yeah, right.
And it was funny because he was mistaken as Hitler in the movie, and he was put up there, and he's like, "What? I don't want to be a dictator. I don't want to rule anybody." And then he goes into this whole thing, and I don't know. I think that was amazing. But anyway, Canopy has stuff like that.
Yeah.
Check it out. Kanopy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please. It has so many. I know at first like. Black and white film, it's like boring, whatever, but you find out that it's like some of the most incredible shit that you've ever seen.
Yeah, we've had this talk about how I want to try to get a PhD in film studies, because I think it would be, I think that it would be something I could take joy in and keep learning one more thing about, see yet one more movie, you know, because I can't do the same. I would never think of doing a PhD program in dance. I couldn't. I think that would kill me within like one semester. I'd be like, I'm losing my mind, because it's just. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just not interested in doing that.
It's not for you. It's not for you. But you know who you need to talk to?
Who?
She knew. Walter Metz.
Okay.
He is a professor in the cinema department
All
at
right.
SIU, and he's one of the most genius men I have ever met in my life.
One thing that like was so life-changing for me.
You can come over here and talk.
Where am I supposed to?
I'll grab this.
get you a
I'll grab this
chair.
bucket. Okay.
I'm gonna start us off.
Because the nice thing about tables is they
So what we were
please talk
just
about
talking
Mr.
about, like, the
Metz.
hierarchy of different subjects, what was so like life-changing for me was that he was talking about how both like science and like math kind of things and then
Uh-huh.
arts, they have different ways of thinking, but would be really interesting is if you like work off of each other, they both better each other.
Yeah.
So like the way thinking, like critical thinking that art makes you think
Mm.
would be really interesting in like a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
Like they would just like work off each other and like better each other, except like right now he was like they're so distant from each other
Yeah.
and they're like competing against each other when they should really be working together.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And he's like, he was originally an engineer. I don't know what kind. It doesn't matter. He'll tell us.
Yeah.
He'll probably comment or something. And he is incredible with like, I originally I was one of those people that was like, black and white film is so boring and it's so stupid. It's
right.
not. I was like, the films that we have now, like we figured it out. Like that's why we have them look this way. We don't go back
Right.
to that. No.
No, you
He-
go back to that to
He
derive
showed
inspiration.
me how dumb of an idea that was,
Uh-huh.
and not because, and he wasn't condescending about it.
No.
He just educated.
Right, yeah. So he showed you things like, well, Rashomon. He showed you but he showed you like Metropolis, I hope.
Yes.
And he showed you Sunrise, I hope.
No.
Oh, you have to see Sunrise. Oh my God, you have to see Sunrise.
We're gonna make a list after we're
Okay.
done. We're gonna
Yeah.
switch movies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some that are hard to take. Like, I know that when I started to read about movies, there were books out about filmmakers like Griffith, and I read those books about his movies and thought they were really cool and thought that the way that the actors looked in the stills was really neat and thought lots of things about that. And then I took a film history class in undergraduate, and I think the first movie that we watched, I want to say it was The Birth of a Nation. And
Oh my
I,
God.
I remember
Probably.
being distanced from it. I won't say I hated it. I remember being distanced from it. And now I try to watch just clips of it and I'm like, I really cannot get into this. As a matter of fact, it's like all of Griffith's oeuvre, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with the things that he did at United Artists, like the Way Down East. I can barely handle Broken Blossoms. Orphans of the Storm. Oh my God, what an incredibly turgid film. I have tried like twice and been like,
yeah.
what?
Basically, I feel like all he did was like his is very much like aesthetic practices. It had nothing to do with the content, and I feel like Bell Hooks. I did took like an African American cinema class this last semester, and Bell Hooks was kind of.
Yeah, it'll just go down the hall. Well, you'll because of the mold, and then and turn to the left. It's at the end of the hall, though. Go ahead.
But Bell Hooks is kind of talking about how like, I don't know if you've seen Imitation of Life,
Which one?
the black and white one.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but she was kind of talking about how like for so long like there's the Mammy, there's the Tom or whatever, like all these tropes, and like it was good that like black people were getting in movies, but like she was talking about how like participating in the movie, like just watching the movie was like painful to their identity.
Yeah,
because like you can't like. You don't want to associate with that in your identity, so it's just painful to even watch movies at that point.
No, it is. It's rough. It's hard to take that. It's hard to take the remake because when we get to the remake, you have to deal with the double whammy of how that character metamorphosed into Annie Mae in the remake. Then you have to also deal with the fact that in spite of the fact that there was an incredible African-American actress or two around at the time that could have played Annie Mae's daughter, Sarah, they cast the woman who looked like Natalie Wood to play that part, which still makes no sense to me because there was Leela Goldoni who was working with John Cassavetes, and there was a woman named Ellen Holly who would eventually become like the first major African-American star on a soap opera. So here were two actors, and it could have been like the whole Hollywood, like A Star is Born build-up, and they didn't take the time. So, and they had Lana Turner, so they had the money to make a damn movie. That was not what Universal needed. And for extra added input, they had Sandra Dee, so they had that taken care of. they really needed to take that step, and for some strange reason they could not wrap their minds around that as film producers. Ross Hunter couldn't do that. Universal Internationals could not do that. It was their property, and yet they could not take that step towards doing that. And it's a big problem for me, and it's hard to, I get uncomfortable. I'm like, I think that the reason why I'm watching this, I'm supposed to be watching Lana Turner, and Lana Turner's fine and dandy, she's cool. But I think that's what I'm supposed to be paying attention to as a film spectator, and I'm not paying attention to the whole film. So the emphasis is on her, and then I see this role in the way she's written, and it's like she loses nuances and shadings that Louise Beavers had. She loses them and keeps losing more and more, and then you've got this thing where it's like, I'm really supposed to believe this woman with her Radcliffe voice is an African American. I'm supposed to believe, and I can't. I mean, so that one is the tough one. Right. But the 1934 version, I can actually handle that one. I'll be right back. Fly down the throat.
I thought you swallowed a bug.
Yes, it was organic to me. It was something I went to, and it's hard to speak about it. In grad school, I was, it was like I came to the table wanting to get this master's in musical theater, somehow to incorporate musical theater somehow. And the dance program didn't really do that. And the dance program at SUNY Brockport had two prongs to it. One prong was the whole modern thing, and the other one was this Pan-African thing. And anything else was there just was no room at the table for it. And here I come, like, I'm interested in this, and I definitely have this backbone here, but I need to work on this too, because I know where I need to go, where my vocation is going to take me. It's going to take me into a thing where I'm going to be teaching, probably with theater practitioners. I've got to know this here. And I love film. I love film musicals. The older and more arcane, the better. And I will talk about that till the cows come home. And so one thing I definitely came into, they were like, pick some subjects that you want to delve into. And so I wanted to delve into Eleanor Powell, who's a famous film musical performer from the 1930s. And I would talk about her, and after a certain point in the game, I could just feel the contempt from my colleagues, especially my African-American ones. And so one day, finally, I walked in and I said, well, this is her. And I showed some video clips, and they were like, oh my God. We didn't think, I'm like, I didn't even know how to respond from it. I was like, so you honestly think that I talked about how marvelous she was for what reason? So I could just flap my gums for 20 minutes? So I could just talk about some shit that nobody wanted to hear about, so I could put you through some agony? I mean, I was very affronted by this attitude of like, well, I'm glad you caught up. I mean, I'm glad all it took was seeing her do her thing in a movie, because the one thing I was always talking about with performers like her and Fred Astaire and a whole bunch of them is that they never got screen credit for doing their own choreography. And this is like a thing. I could do my PhD on this, but they never got their credits. And then I don't know why they never took them, why they didn't think that much of what they were doing, the way that they were putting these steps together, that they had these signature steps that they did that you can actually even see tap teachers have named after them, why they never claimed any authorship for their work. And it would be an interesting thing to peek into. I know Fred Astaire was always, that was his attitude, literally. The man danced the way he did, sang the way he did, could play the piano and the drums, was an incredible musician, and was just kind of, that was how he felt about his dancing and his choreography. And it's like, wow, okay. And I think that's got a lot to do with a lot of it, and there were people like who changed that around, whose work that I've only learned to appreciate, like Gene Kelly. That's probably part of the reason why I don't really care for things that he did, because it's like you're always aware of the fact that he's very prideful of the fact that he created what he did, as opposed to taking that journey and making that thing and finding his way and being a part of this fabric, and and collecting his check and paying his mortgage on this Hollywood house and whatever. But he always were aware that, he was very much aware of what he was doing. So, and I don't know. It's that.
I feel like it's when someone does something nice for you and then they're like, wow, I just did this really nice thing for you. It's like, okay, well. Yeah.
Now it's less.
Means less now.
Yeah, it means a whole lot less. And I think that it's really just about the different person, because like I know some artists, so like I'm not gonna call any names because I don't want to hear anyone bitching at me. But there are people in the cinema department, and I mean students, not the faculty, who are very, what was that P word again? Not pompous.
Pretentious.
Pretentious, yeah.
Extremely pretentious. Whenever they get to be that person that is knowledgeable and like they know more, and there are different types of people that I met there. There were those that would have the knowledge and the skill, and then they would be very kind. And I'm going to call this person out really fast. This guy, Noah A.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that. Love you, Noah.
Yeah, we love you, guy. He is incredibly sweet, and like Connor Sackett, those two dudes, incredibly down to earth, always just down to help no matter what.
Right.
And it was like whenever you worked with them and you did a project and you guys just worked on it together, and it was like an experience that you guys just kind of bonded, got better at your craft, and you both got something out of the experience. But then there were other people that I worked with where it was almost like a, what is it called? Like an inconvenience for someone that might not know as much as them to work on a project with them, and they would be very condescending, and they would be very much like pretentious or something like this, and you could just see a different dynamic, and that's why I didn't do any of the RSOs with film, is because that was commonplace in all of them.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it was, because I just straight up just did my own thing. But that led me. I'm actually grateful for that, because it led me to only work with people that I was like, this guy's kind of cool, I'm going to work with them.
Right.
So I started off in the cinema department only working by myself. I did my first commercials by myself.
Right.
I didn't want to bring anyone else on. I was like, I'm going to learn how to just be doing video myself. Then I quickly learned it's a crew. You need a team. It's a community thing. It's like you can't just do everything yourself.
Right.
Like you can do it to some degree, but like today, setting all this up, I needed Haley. I couldn't do this by myself.
Right.
And even though we had all these problems, and it's like, I know people are going to be like, oh, you messed up on the audio. Oh, you guys keep messing up on technical difficulties. You guys should have planned for this. You don't know all the nuances behind
the variables,
it. Yeah.
But it's nice to have more minds, because people have different, like, oh, we could do this.
Yeah, and then like they present an idea that you just didn't even think of, because you're like in your zone, and then you're like, oh shit, that's a great idea. But like some people, they just don't have that. They're just, I know, you don't know.
Right.
Listen to me.
Right.
And I don't like working with them, so I would wait. And like Connor, I didn't get to work with Noah, but I did work with him in class. And I was like, yeah, I want to hang out with you. And then I met one of my best friends, Reese, who is my roommate, and he does cinema with us as well. And he's just like, we both always are never like, dude, I know more than you or anything like this. We're just both like, hey, did you know that you can do this? And I'm like, oh yeah. And we just feed off of it, and we grow and we learn, and then like we work on projects together. And whenever I work on projects with like him or someone else like that, it's not like a daunting task to like be like, oh, I gotta work with so and so. No, it's like we play off each other and we grow together, and I love that.
Yeah. I think it's so important to work with someone like you trust, because like for me, I feel like I'm the opposite end of like the condescending humility kind of thing. Like I feel like sometimes I'm like too much humility that it's almost like just like lack of confidence. And you need confidence to like say your idea or like
you do.
Like to contribute and be collaborative. So that's like something I'm really struggling with. And I feel like you deal with the same things like with theater. It's like very collaborative and dance and performance.
No. It isn't, sadly. So I feel that in my God, I can't believe I've been here for 4 years. But yeah, I've been at this university for 4 years now, and I feel that my currency got a shot in the arm when I was put in a position where I got a chance to direct a show. And mind you, it's not something I particularly aspire to do, and I only put forth things that when we propose things that I'm actually interested in directing or interested in working on as a choreographer. I don't always want to be a director, is what I'm trying to say. But I found I was treated differently for those few weeks in terms of like having to be the head of the person in the production meetings that week where the show finally got into the theater and got up on its feet, like how people talked to me, finally getting to work with a few students that were not musical theater majors, because that never happened. But to this very day, I still get lost backstage at McLeod Theater. I have no idea how to get around. There's like a couple of entrances you're supposed to be able to take where you can walk backstage and you can go up to the observation room and do some other things. Can't find them. Only had to walk through them one time, and that was when I came on campus to interview. So I have no idea how. I used to get lost walking, trying to get from the comm side to the theater. Got lost so many times. So I only entered the building one way. And that was the way at the McLeod box office. That was the only way I would ever come into the building for forever. I did not know that I had keys that opened certain doors until this year. Because it just was like, oh, okay, now that you're here and we've hired you, whatever. The first two shows that were done, the first year that I was here, the first musical they did, I thought I was going to choreograph, but I was asked, but they had invited somebody to come and direct and / choreograph the show. So therefore I basically sat the first show out, just kind of watched it. That I was like, and they thought that was a good thing to have happen. The second show only required one bit of dancing. And it was like, I was in and out of that rehearsal process in like 2 days. I literally did nothing but teach. It was like the strangest thing. And I feel like that's a cycle that keeps completing itself too quickly. Like working with the SIDC, that is an RSO, and technically that's not an RSO that belongs to the theater department. That's just an RSO that exists because of whatever, and it exists in spite of the fact that the school could never figure out if it wanted a dance program, if it wanted a minor in dance. So they've had professors who taught dance here many times before me. And Donna Wilson was here for like over 20 years, and they could never figure out that they wanted this thing. So meanwhile, she created this company, and she oversaw the company until she got tired of doing a lot of the stuff, and then she got them to incorporate it as an RSO, and because she technically was employed by Knies, I think, but wanted to be a part of theater but couldn't be because they couldn't figure that out. Mm-hmm. She never really had a place. So she was here 20 years doing this thing and never really had a place. It is crazy. And as a result of it, now the politic cannot change. And I mean, as much as they'll say, don't you want to do it? I'm like, of course I want to do it. But I doubt seriously there's ever going to be a well thought out, well implemented minor in dance at this school. And there could be, but I doubt there's ever going to be one.
What would that take?
It would take two things. It would take three things. The first thing it would take is they'd have to have a second faculty member who teaches dance. The second thing it would take is that they have to overhaul everything that has to do with dance in terms of the facilities. For Guild 116, there'd have to be something inside comm. There has to be a dance studio in comm. And it's got there's a studio in comm. It's in the gut of the theater. It's underneath the stage. There's no windows. There's no ventilation. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that people are going to come and inspect that space and say nothing can be taught in here. This is a germ pit, which means that no movement for the actor classes can be taught in the fall because that's where they're taught. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then. And yeah, there's nothing. So that would be the second thing that there would have to be. And then, and I've told, and the third thing that it would need, but I've told the students who are part of the RSO's GB, sorry, I'm saying this wrong, the SIDC's governing board, I've told them, you really need to look at whatever it's going to take to make this RSO belong to the theater department or ask the theater department to come on board. It's going to take more than just having me around. You've got to do this. Because,
are you saying you're the only dance faculty?
Yeah, I am.
Oh my.
They never told me that when I interviewed.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I got here, and I'm thinking.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I get here, and I'm like, oh, Donna works here, and I'm gonna be, no. She had retired the year before I was hired, And then this woman named Barbara Tyler, who teaches now at the rec center. She teaches like yoga at the rec center and some fitness classes. Those two women were doing a class here and there, and then I was teaching mostly stuff for the musical theater class program rather. And then my first semester, they let them go because they were like, well, we're cutting funding and we're going to cut them. And then another semester later, they also retired our PR person for the theater department, which was like one of the worst things they could have done. And that was Montemagno, so we're not even going to talk about him. Anyways, but they got rid of these two people, and they thought, well, we can always get them back. And there's been no one that they can get in to teach. Like that woman who came and taught that one day for me, Sidel Volk.
Amazing.
She could, but she's got history with the university. She doesn't particularly want to work at the university.
I wouldn't want to work for this university. Like, the only reason I did was because I was a student worker, and I enjoyed just having a place where I could film for somebody. And they gave me full creative freedom.
Right.
They were just like, we need an ad. Here. And so then that was so much fun. And beyond that, but I mean, I got paid minimum wage for hourly, which is not how a videographer should be paid whatsoever.
No.
And I let them know, I was like, I don't think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be hourly. Because when I first started working there, it made sense.
Right.
Because it took me a long-ass time to make these videos. But then the more and more I did it, the better I got at it, and I got much faster. I got to where I could just like make something in like a couple of hours. And so it became this thing where I'd have to like play catch up. So at the beginning when I started working there, like the first year, it would take me about a few days to produce one. I could do it in like a day and a half now. And so it's just like, it got to the point where I wouldn't be making any money if I did it really by hourly.
Right,
so then I charged it, I wrote down the hours, and I would spend the time there at the office.
Right.
But I mean, I'd just be like...
right, you're just sitting around with time on your hands in order to make your paycheck, which is really not the way it should be.
Yeah, I felt really guilty too, because then I was like, am I abusing this? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just, I'm getting paid what I'm owed. It's just that this is a weird system for what I do. It should be based on project.
Right.
Or based on like each individual thing that I give you. Like, hey, I give you this much for this month. Or just say I get this much a month.
Right.
And then I do the production for you. Because there'd be some times where there's like a month and a half where there's no event for me to go film for them.
Yeah. And you were sitting around again like this.
Yeah, so then I would make little animations for them.
Right.
And I was like, here, it's just a bunch of blobs, and it says SIU business, we're ready for business. And you can just put it on the website. Yeah. It's so dumb, but it's something. I'm just trying to produce something for you.
Right, yeah.
And so it's like, it was really weird, and I understand, like, my experience was really minute, because I'm not a professor, and I'm not, like, getting paid professionally. And
right.
But, I mean, I had problems with, like, SIU as a whole, like, trying to work for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the thing. It's like people think that we make these exorbitant salaries, but we're expected to do all these very myriad duties where it's like 1 week it'll feel like we're not working, and then 2 weeks later it'll feel like we are just not sleeping because we're doing so much, and then it changes. So we just keep cycling in and out. And I mean, it seems like one of the few benefits right now to have is that you can apportion your pay, where either you get paid on a 9-month contract or you get paid on a 12-month contract. And so I opted for the 12-month contract after my first year here, because I thought if you were on 9 months, it's like, okay, there's like a month there. It's about the end of June till about the first week of August, where you basically don't have anything coming in. And if you need a little bit of a bump for your income, you just go get some unemployment. It's like, just 2 checks, and then you're fine. As a matter of fact, it'd probably only be 1 check, because by the time they process the stupid forms, you have to get off of it. So it's no big deal. But I found out that I was ineligible because, ironically, I knew that I was going to go back to work by a certain date, so I was ineligible. I was like, that's crazy.
I've been trying to get on unemployment, and because of the COVID-19, I have no jobs. And I'm not trying to go get another job.
Right.
Because, one, I don't want to be responsible to, like, I gotta quit now and go back to my other one. And I also don't want to be out there and, like, spread anything.
Right, yeah.
Like, by coming into contact with anybody. But the problem is,
I've tried to sign in, and then I was denied. And then it was said that if you're self-employed, which I partially am,
Right.
I'm not just self-employed, but I've got like 2 other jobs. I actually have 4 jobs, and so it's just like none of those jobs are anything now. And it's just like each one of those jobs just call me in at some other time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then I just come in and do things, and then I have my freelance, which is my self-employment. So I looked it up, and like at May 11th, they were going to open up a thing on the website and be like, you can sign for a PUA, so
Right.
people who are self-employed and are out of work because of COVID-19, they can actually, once they're denied from the initial unemployment insurance, then you go sign up for the PUA instead of just directly going for the PUA.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I went to go sign up for the PUA, says I can't, I'm not eligible for that.
Right.
So now I'm trying to appeal for my unemployment.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to send that in, and guess what? You can't just email it to anybody. You can't just do that. You have to either mail it or fax it. And guess what? Nobody's in the office to answer a fax machine.
Right, that's
I found
true.
that out.
Yeah.
I found that out. And so I don't have a car, so I had to ask my roommate. I'd be like, yo, can you take me to the post office?
Yeah.
And I had to go to the post office and send all this stuff, pay for all this stuff to get it sent out there, and just have this appeal, and it had to be handwritten. And I had to write this appeal. I don't even know if it's going to work.
Right,
Because
yeah.
then eventually, by the time I get all this done,
Right.
I'm not even going to be able to be eligible. Everything's going to open up.
Right.
And then there's all this time that I've had no money coming in. I'm broke.
Yeah, everybody is pretty much in the same boat who gigs.
We're all here.
Yeah, and that's like of such a huge multitude of people who go from all these cross sections of life that I can't even fathom it sometimes. And what I have another hard time with is that we have a government that doesn't want to help people because their rationale is that, or I should say figures in this government, that the rationale is that we'll find life on the dole a lot more wonderful than working for a living.
I hate it.
It's like, I would love to just go to people like Bitch McConnell and Linda Graham and just choke them out and just like, bitch, do you understand that every time I don't get up and go to the studio, that's like painful. It's not emotionally painful because it's like there's ways that one can handle that. But it's going to make my having to return to work 10 times more difficult every day that I can't go back to work.
Stretch, you gotta keep your body in motion.
Yeah.
Like your body is your tool.
Right. And it's like, and like the only thing I can do is walk. That's it. I don't do anything else. It's like, if this thing will do what it needs to do for me, I will start riding it again. But even so, I will probably only ride at certain places because I don't like riding a bike in Carbondale. I don't know why it is. I just don't. I think the streets are horrible.
Yeah, the bike paths are shit. They just disappear. And
man.
There's like all these people who don't know how to drive.
There are people who don't know how to drive. People who don't know where to put garbage, like in the garbage can, not in the gutter.
Yeah.
And there are people who like to kill things. And
yeah, it's weird.
When you ride up on a deer in the middle of a street, not a road, a street, like a street, and you're just like, because you're a city person and you're traumatized by seeing carcasses in the middle of the sidewalk. I can't. I do not like riding bike here. And what they've done to Oakland, they have to cross Oakland now.
Oh yeah, with all the construction, and they just blocked it off.
Right, and it's like, whatever it is, So that's the kind of thing that I think that is part of the bike path. Mm-hmm. Like it is, yeah. So it's like you can't access it. Like you have to go down this way and then somehow get across Main and Walnut and then get over onto Sycamore and then it picks back up again.
And then you also want to be careful with like where you're riding your bike because we're in like southern Illinois and people think we're in the south, and we're like really close to Anna too. And it's just like there are people where I don't want to be in their house, like on their property.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, especially for you because like there's just like a lot of fucking racist white people around here.
Well, we know this now, don't we?
Yeah.
For once and for all, there's nothing to be doubted anymore. Poor Brianna, poor Ahmad. This is something that at this point in the game, it should not be happening. Again, whatever happens with this election, if we can just, the person who is got to be elected, has got to be the kind of person that's like walk in and say, this is what I need. Like there won't be no town halls with elected officials, and even if there were, I mean, like I remember when Obama was on his 2008 campaign tour, he came to Springfield, Missouri, and he spoke, and I remember like say he was like way over there somewhere, and I was standing right here. Thank God for microphones, right? So I could hear him speak. And I'm because I expect, also I'm thinking in Southwest Missouri, who's gonna go and see him? So, of course, dumbass that I am, the speech is supposed to start at 8. I go over there at 7:45, right? You can't get anywhere near it. So basically, we're all like around Parkview High School, which is like, imagine Parkview High is like where Trinity is, right? And I'm standing right here basically listening to him speak. So that was my way of being in history, because it's like I wasn't getting close to the stage, right? And it was not talking, he was not listening to the people, he was giving a speech, he was stumping. So it wasn't like he was going to sit and talk to you and ask you about what do you need from me if I become president of the United States.
There is no platform.
Right,
for
no.
the people.
So that was what that was. But there has to be ways where, and there are events where we've actually seen them on occasion because of documentary filmmakers who have taken their cameras there, where you can get to this person, you can talk to them. We know that's not happening with Mango Orangutan. We know that's not, you can't, we three could not go to him and talk to him. So we know that's not happening.
Yeah, and like,
Well, I
and
mean,
it's
I feel
ridiculous.
like he also
It's impossible to communicate with him.
Oh, because he's a child.
Yeah, he like the psychologist that actually talked about him and like actually did a little videos, like he's actually a narcissist. He's an actual narcissist and a pathological liar. He's like, it's not me like dissing him or anything, like that's what it is.
Right, yeah.
And it's weird because whenever I watch a lot of videos because I want to keep up to date with what's going on, and I see him talking to people that are just newscasters and stuff, and they're just trying to, like one time whenever he tried to pump a campaign ad during a COVID-19 press release.
Right.
And then they were like, what was that?
Yeah.
And he's like, that is this, and it was filled with like so much misinformation. And it was like, why are you showing this? This is not a place to put your campaign ads.
Right.
This is where we're coming to meet you to discuss COVID-19 and like our pandemic and what we need to be doing.
Right.
And then he just goes off and talks about how like fake news.
Right.
Doing all this
You're
shit. Like I'm the one that's doing all this. People love me. People you just don't get it. You just don't.
Right.
You see,
Yeah.
well, I'm just like, oh my god, man, like.
No, the thing is, we do get it.
Actually, like, communicate. Like instead of just shitting on people and making fun of people, I don't get why that appeals to so many people in the U.S.
Right.
I don't know what it is. They're like, he speaks his mind. I'm like,
no, he doesn't. There's no mind there to speak.
Yeah, there's
so
a difference
like,
between speaking a mind and just being an asshole.
Yeah.
Because what it is he doesn't care about us. There is no. That's what a narcissist is. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about what his actions and what his words and how they affect other people. And he lies. He's a pathological liar. Like the time whenever there was a bunch of truckers that were blowing their horns at him while he was doing a speech, and they were doing it in protest of him because of his actions that cost them their jobs.
Right.
And so, but he was up on the podium. He's like, oh, so they're up there and they're tooting their horns in support of us right now. Doing all this, and it's like, no, they're out there protesting you.
Yeah, right.
Yet he is the fake news, trying to say all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And the stuff where he was like trying to talk about COVID-19 and how to do something with it. And let's not even really get into the whole inject disinfectants.
Yeah. Let's leave that alone.
But he was actually talking about it, and he was talking about UV light and stuff. And then there was another guy, I can't remember what his position is or what it was about. I wish I could, because it would really help pump out real information. Please go look it up. There was a man that was trying to say something. Trump said, like, this is this and yada yada yada. But then someone in the audience was like asking the man who actually made the statement. He's like, is the statement that you made true? Is that really something you stated?
Yeah.
And then Trump's off to the side like, no, it's not. It's not true. And the guy walks up to the podium and he's like, yes, I said that.
Right,
yes.
yeah, you were talking about Dr. Fauci. It's like, yeah, he's the one who definitely, I would like it very much if he would somehow extricate himself from the situation that he's in and do his thing on the side. I know one of the major networks would hire him as a consultant and would let him appear I mean, there's an hour on MSNBC that I know that they would gladly give it to him and other medical professionals to talk about this.
That's what I was watching the same with my parents about. It's so dangerous to bring this into like to politicize this pandemic.
Yeah.
Because like people are saying like this is a hoax that the Democrats are saying. So like Trump's son said the Democrats are faking this so for the election, and so after the election it'll be gone. And that is so dangerous of a mindset to like give to people who are like following you, supporting you, listening to you.
Right.
So like science has nothing to do with politics or your party that you're interested in. So like all these scientists are trying to do this work, and this kind of like politicization of it is ruining. Like it took away grants of people doing important research for this for like a cure or treatment. Yeah. It just really sucks.
It eliminated a whole wing of the cabinet that took care of it.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of parties, political parties.
Yeah.
Let's go into the whole thing. When this whole country was founded, everybody likes to talk about the founders. Everybody's like, oh, they were the real Americans, yada, yada, yada. Well, if that's the case, our first president said not to have political parties. Do not divide yourselves. Mm-hmm. And then here we are with Republicans and Democrats, and then of course libertarians and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And the thing is, I myself identify as nothing. I'm presented with information, I'm presented with people, and I have choices. And I try to make my best choice with what I've got, with who's there, and what I can do, and whatever I can actively do in my own community. Right. And it's like, I've had so many times in my life where I have conversations with people, and they're like, you're a libertarian, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. I'm like, no, I'm not. I have this viewpoint, and it's constantly changing because I'm an adaptive person who, whenever presented with new information and new ideas, I can change with it. And I'm like, I'm not going to limit myself and call myself Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever you want to be, because I am immediately locked into whatever viewpoints you think I have if I have that title. Right. Like, you automatically think that I want let's just say I would say I'm a Democrat. Then someone's like, oh, you want to abort babies, you want to kill it.
Each part comes with a stigma.
Yeah, so like you're a Republican, you want to tote guns and be crazy. It's like what? Right. Just calm down. Yeah. Like, people are in each of these parties, and just because you're in a party does not make you an idiot. Right. And just because you support someone doesn't make you an idiot. You might be misinformed, or you might just not be well educated on some aspect of something. Right. That does not mean you're automatically this way. Yeah. And that's why I don't like identifying under anything like that.
I mean, it's tough for me because we didn't grow up having those kinds of dinner conversations. We didn't have a dinner hour when I was a child, so that was like, and I feel like the things that I vibrated to as a kid are the reason why it took me so long to get to this place where I'm at right now. Like, I never saw me sitting around talking about politics or politicians and having an opinion about any of them because when sometime around the younger Bush's second campaign, I just had a friend, dear woman, I just said, just tell me to vote for him. I won't think about it. Because it was like, when I grew up, I took joy in watching Zoom and The Electric Company and The Carol Burnett Show and old movies, so that's where my brain is going to go to. I will sit down and talk about those till the cows come home, because I can do that with a great deal of ease. This politic thing, And so, like, watching people and watching how they talk about whatever they're going to do.
I'm sorry, there's a
Chipmunks. Sorry.
Oh, and I love them. I wish I could have one as a pet, but I know that would not go very well with them. Anyways, I know for a fact that, like, this whole thing of, like, talking about these people and dealing with these people and internalizing what they're about, they've never really had the arts as a platform. So therefore, I could never get interested on that level. Mm-hmm. The closest that came was the Clinton years, because Chelsea was studying in dance with the Washington Ballet. And that's not really that close.
Right.
If that was going to be my thing would have been to be alive during the Civil Rights era when the Kennedys were in the White House and Jackie was like, oh, let's have this cellist come play and let's have this then, and it's televised then, or Betty Ford, as drunk as she was, would get on and introduce like ABT doing a performance or the Bolshoi doing a performance. Those were those years.
The Fords were Republicans. The Kennedys were not. I would have followed whatever politician who could say, okay, there's money set aside to like do this for the NEA. Okay, so therefore I would probably vote for the person who would not vote for the person who was adamant about not supporting those things. Like Reagan, no, that did not happen. Old movies aside, no. And all of them, it's like they just didn't have that there. It's like, and then education became a thing, and it's like there's just no way in life I could have ever, would have ever, never, ever would have done that. So it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like take the stigma on. I'm like, okay, because I know it's not me, I don't care.
Right.
But it just really is like a thing. I'm like, that there's never been a politician who advocates for what it is that I do in this world. So yeah, I don't really want to vote for any of them.
I'm 100% there. I've never met any single politician where I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like they tried to say it about Rahm Emanuel when he was mayor of Chicago. They were like, well, he used to study ballet. He like da-da-da. I was like, well, that's really cool. And then I saw how much of a idiot he was, and it was like, well, I guess it's a good thing I don't live in Chicago now, because I don't know what I would have done with this time,
Yeah, and it's amazing how much people can get away with like Trump with like the sexual harassment allegations.
Oh yeah.
The current mayor of my hometown, he ran a pizza place, and I worked there. And I saw some shit. He is an alcoholic.
Okay, so you're not from here, I take it.
I'm not from Carbondale. I'm from this area. You know Harrisburg?
I've heard. I mean, because they're all run like Harrisburg, Heron.
They're all kind of near.
So if you go towards Marion, you just keep going on 13 that direction, and then eventually you're gonna run through the town.
Okay, run through it. Not run into it. Run through it. It's like whoosh. Okay, there. Okay.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like 45 minutes to an hour away.
Okay.
And
it's probably the most like hick place around here. Is that a word you're allowed to say?
Hick, yeah.
And it's like really, really close to the Kentucky border. Like very, very close. Like don't you drive past Harrisburg on your way to Owensboro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So
really close to the Ohio River?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Right, never mind.
It's like more towards Garden of the Gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like
I think
like
that's near the Ohio River.
Yeah, it's like Shawneetown and all that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, wait.
Scandals.
Ohio River is the one that I have to go over to go to Kentucky, right?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I had a lapse
Uh-huh.
in there, and but yes. But anyway, I mean, you guys can say whatever you want about it. I don't care. I'm presenting the information that I found of this man, and I'm going to put it out there. Just my mom has told me multiple times not to create problems with people, especially with like people that have power like him.
Yeah.
Because now he's the mayor of our town. And he has been for a little bit now. But I saw him be an alcoholic at the place that I worked.
Yeah.
Always drunk. One time there was a time where he was drunk. I accidentally did something on the computer, and it was like idiot.com or something like that. And it turned out that if you go type in, like, I can't remember if it was like idiot.com or something like that, it was just Trump's Wikipedia page.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I died laughing, and I had to show my coworkers, and it ended up messing up something on the system.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't get it back up to where we could process people's food orders.
Oh, right.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I felt bad, but then I didn't feel bad once he started yelling at me and said he was gonna kill me and smash my head into a wall.
Oh.
And then he said I was fired, and then I was like, you're not firing me. I'm gonna be here tomorrow. And then he's just because I knew he was drunk.
Right.
And he's like, no, you can't. And then I remember coming back the next day, and then like my coworkers were like, Zach, why are you here? And I'm like, because I was scheduled to work. I'm going to work. Right. I'm not going to lose my money. And they're like, but he did all this stuff and all that. I'm like, I don't give a shit. He's a baby. I don't give a shit. Like, I have too much shit to worry about than what he's got going on. Right. And then he came in that day, and then he's like, hey, Zach. I'm like, hey. And it didn't matter. And I saw sexual harassment happen whenever I was there.
Right.
I don't know which way he swings.
but there was a time whenever he asked me to help him up, and this dude's big.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy. He's like, wait, and I'm like, because he's sitting on the ground working on the computer. I'm like, sure.
Right.
And I like go to grab his hand,
Right.
and he like tries to pull me on top of him. And I'm right next to a counter, so I put my hand on the counter,
Right.
and I like let go of his hand, and I just like, pick yourself up, dude. I'm not coming. You're not doing that shit. I don't know what this is about. And like, no. And it's like, I see him post stuff on Facebook all the time because he's the mayor and all this stuff. Doing,
Right.
you need to do this, and
Right.
we as like, okay. And then I see so much support, and it's just like, I'm not mad at these people because I'm not like, you're idiots.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you guys haven't seen what I've seen.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, I've worked with the guy. I've seen these things happen.
Uh-huh.
I'm not like, I don't like this guy.
Right.
I'm going to create a bunch of stories. No, I had no opinion of him, and then it all went sour when I had these things.
Right, yeah.
There was a game at Mackey's. That's the pizza place that he worked at in Marion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say Mackey's is a bad place, because Mackey's isn't necessarily
Good
a bad
pizza.
place.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. But there was a time whenever we had this game where it was like, wait 10 seconds after he goes into the deep freeze,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go in, and then you see him drinking, and then he freaks out, puts it up on the, and then walks out. And so that was a game. And then I also remember a time the one time that I actually yelled at a boss.
Right.
Like, just straight up, like, I yelled.
Right.
And, like, there were customers there. I'm at the front desk. And what he said was something like, keep an eye on those people in that table. I was like, what, why? And not to me, but to someone else.
Yeah.
And he's like, because they're black. And I was like, what? He's like, they're gonna try and skip out or not gonna pay. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I got extremely furious, and I started yelling at him like, you can't say that, you can't do that. And then like, well, it doesn't matter. Yelling at him is not gonna help. It's not gonna make him stop doing what he's doing.
Right.
It's not gonna change his mind. It's not gonna let him see anything. But I was a kid, and I was pissed off at this.
Right.
And I didn't know anything else to do, so I'm just
Right.
I'm just standing here yelling at this guy, and I leave early because I'm like, no, that's not at all what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter. And so it's like, now I'm coming back to the whole thing. I told you guys all this context only to lead you to this. I'm not here to trash on him.
Mm-hmm.
What it was it's scary that people like that can be in a position of power and use it and then get away with so much. And then like, people support him just because they aren't aware of what actually happened.
Right, right.
Especially like right now, like people are pissed because like what is it between Trump and Biden right now basically, and like both have had allegations of sexual assault, rape, whatever. And so like people are like, I have to choose between two fucking rapists. Like,
right, yeah.
It's scary.
Between that, I have to choose between. I mean, again, it's like I would like to see someone else give it a try.
Right.
I really do want to see that happen. I feel that it's time to have a female president in this country.
I want someone.
We are way the hell overdue. We were overdue last election. I don't care about all the baggage that Hillary Clinton would have brought to the but fuck that.
I would have rather had her.
I would have rather had
at the time when it was happening.
It was
I
like,
wanted,
what's the worst monster? You know what I mean? And like she was
at the
not
time, I would have
she
rather
was
had
not the worst.
No,
monster.
no.
Back whenever I was less informed and shit, and I didn't know anything about Trump, and I knew a little bit about Hillary, I was like, I'd rather have Trump than Hillary. But now that I'm more in tune as to what's going on, I was like, no, I'm glad I didn't vote at all because I didn't. Like now I'm going to vote, but like back the first time I got to vote, I didn't because I didn't know what election day when it was, and I missed it. So I was like, whatever.
That can happen. I mean, it's like it's not very well advertised in this part of the world. I missed a local election doing that. I thought that I don't know how I thought it was supposed to happen on this one date, and it turned out calendar-wise. Oh, I know what it was. The venue was supposed to be Town Hall, downtown, and I was like, well, it's really strange that they're going to have an election on a Saturday, but what do I know? I've only lived here a year. Turned out it wasn't at Town Hall here. It was Town Hall in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, because it's the county.
Right, and I was like, okay, well,
shit.
Yeah, basically. I guess I'll go have breakfast at Cristado's. There's nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
Another point was like you're talking about like, I feel like politics is so hard. Like, for so long, I was like, I'm not fucking watching the news because it's fucking depressing.
Yeah, that.
So there's, like, this
among the
certain
different
level
things.
of apathy that you take on just to, like, protect yourself,
Yeah.
you know, to an extent. But what's so sucky is that what's scary about this election is, like, it's so important for people
It's
to
vital.
vote now,
Yes, it
but
is.
people don't want to because everything is so fucked up.
Yeah, and
Right.
that was the thing. The first time I was supposed to vote, and then I didn't know the election day, but it wouldn't have mattered because I didn't want to vote, because I was like, I am not one of the people who need to be making the calls, because I was like, I don't know.
What do I know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now that I keep up with stuff a lot more, I'm like, I want to vote, and I
Yeah.
really need to, and like, seriously, for the love of God, please
Go
vote.
vote.
Oh, my best friend in the my ride or die in Chicago when Clinton was running for his first term. I was like, "Well, you're going to do this, aren't you?" He was like, "Absolutely not." I could not convince him to go to the polls. And then it's funny. 20 years down the road, it's like we were talking about something, and he goes, "And by the way, I know," it's like, "You don't have to remind me to exercise my sacred franchise, my friend. I'm the one who had to remind you 20 years ago to do it, so you don't have to remind me. We don't even have to have that conversation."
You can step down.
Honest to God. And then it's like, and then he was the one who turned me on to like free speech TV and stuff, because I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I mean, I was really in this emotional quandary. I couldn't breathe right for like a month, for like between the day after Election Day and like around Christmas time 2016. I just could not draw a deep breath, because I was like, I cannot believe what is going on at this point in the game in this country, and I can't believe that this is happening, and that there are people who trust that this is the way to go. I mean, the tapes of the TV shows aside, and the Apprentice and all this stuff, I'm like, you only have to look at this malignancy and look and say, do you want this to be the face that goes out to the world every damn day as the face of this country? Do you want this?
Yeah, because
I mean,
that is what we all are now. Like, regardless of what we
I know, and
actually are.
I have a real hard time with that. I thank God I have friends who are European, or friends who are from other places, Australian, that know that they know it's like, this is not the be all end all experience of the United States. I cannot reckon that was just like the thing that there are people that are like, this is gonna be okay. This would be the way that
Especially
we would go
so
with
many
this.
people in which he actually got elected. It's like scary.
Yeah,
That
and
many
because
people
wasn't-
have that perspective.
And the people
and-
that keep getting appointed as a result of it. Oh my God.
Something that's also pretty scary is the fucking fact that Hillary won.
Yeah, she did win.
Hillary
Like
won.
over 3 million votes, she won. But yet they couldn't turn if the electoral college would have went another direction, that would have been like a big old 11th hour for this country. I mean, I watched some of the debates when I moved here, and I don't like political debates between presidential candidates. I know that if they have this, I hate them. I just hate them.
Pandering, slandering.
Yeah,
all
when
of
I
it.
watched Bush and Clinton have theirs, I was like, I can't. I could
It's
never
hard to
do this.
watch. It
The
is.
only real one that I've seen so far is Bernie. Like, say what you want about his political views, whatever. But this guy, I don't see him like necessarily slander. He's like, all right, my opponent says this, and he presents facts, information,
That's
Yeah.
it,
and
yeah.
he's not trying to belittle or downgrade his opponent. He's just like, so these are the facts. This is what I'm gonna do. Here's what my plan is. I actually have a plan. People say I don't, but this is what it is.
I feel like he
actually have
tried to
stuff.
bring it more to the issue rather than like pointing fingers at people,
Right.
Yeah.
or like he brought it more to like what this
Yeah.
is the issue.
Last year's debates were like a lot like that. There was like the camp was divided, and then once certain candidates started to get out of the way, it really became more about that, like, you can't, I can, because I mean that's how let's face it, that's how Warren eviscerated Bloomberg and got him out of that race and got him off that stage. Was she just called him on everything that he was about, and little did she know she was going to be making her exit strategy as well. She didn't know she was doing that at the time. I don't know how the hell that happened. I truly don't know how the hell that happened.
It's crazy, and it sucks that Bernie isn't even like a candidate anymore.
Yeah, I know that there was that thing you got happy about, like some state was like, well, we can put him on the ballot anyways. It's like, don't get happy about that, because it would have been like the same thing if they turned around and put anybody on that ballot to run.
Which scares me, because then you're gonna split the votes, and then
Yeah.
that's how Trump. I feel like that's how Trump won last time, right?
Yeah, well, no.
No, he won because of the electoral college.
He won because of the electoral college, and he also won because of those swing states that were able to like that went to him instead of to Hillary Clinton. And of course, we know those historically now are Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And I mean, I was at Rachel, what's her last name? Rachel Bishop. I was at her house. She was having a salon that night. Now, she lives way out west in Carbondale on this little lake, and so it was really cute and everything. And we just knew that this was going to be a victory. A slam dunk. So when things started going wrong, they started getting ready to call the race. We were just all kind of like standing around our house, like too numb to try to get drunk. I mean, most people had to drive out of that weird place at that time of night, and no one wanted to get drunk and drive off a road because of this shit, you know. And die an alcoholic because of this shit. So we were just kind of like...
Yeah, die with that new information.
Really, it's, oh my God, no one wanted to move. I mean, we were just all numb. And I went home and I was like, I'm going to try to watch an old movie and take my mind off of this for a minute. I was like, nope, that's not going to work.
You had to like sit with the reality of the situation.
But like I said, for 8 weeks after, I could not draw a deep breath. And then I went to New York City and I did some other things and I came back and it was like, and then I heard that I was sitting at my desk at my office, and I heard that he wanted to start slashing at the NEA, and I was like, all right, bitch, I'm in this now.
Yeah. All right, it's too far.
You went too far. It's like, I'm not going to hear people talk about how, but no, he's in the White House now. We have to, no, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't like the whole thing, like, he's our president, you got to accept it. I'm like, hold up. I remember you distinctly telling me about Obama and how he's not your president.
Right.
I'm like, why have you done a 180 and act like why aren't you holding yourself to the same standard?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of who is the president, it doesn't mean I have to put up with anything. No. It doesn't mean I have to support everything that he does. Mm-hmm. He's not there for me to support him.
Right.
He's there to support us.
Right.
He or she, whoever's going to be in there,
they
just need to be there for the people.
And it's our right to, like, challenge them, like, keep their power in check. Like, they have systems where they, like, keep each other in check.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, but we also have to be like, all right, well, I feel like it's so hard. I wouldn't be able to hold a position like that because I feel like there's such large numbers that they have to think about, like, large amounts of people, that they, like, lose the humanity of each person.
They do.
So you have to, like...
There's a quote, I can't remember from what, but it's like... no great man from history. I'm very paraphrasing and I'm butchering it. No great man in history is a good man. Like because they have to make big decisions that affect people's lives and
adversely as well as positively.
Yeah. So it's like regardless of what decision they make, it's going to be positive and negative for different people. And it will cost lives.
And they have to make that decision, which I could just never do. I couldn't hold that on.
But I was afraid, like, I was thinking, Trump's going to get, like, impeached or he's going to, like, get fired or something. Or he's going to get arrested. But apparently, no. All you have to do is start firing the people who are, like, doing this stuff.
Are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And have that éclat and can take you where you're supposed to be taken to if you're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
And that's what he's done.
And where's the checks and balances now if you're just firing everybody that's doing it? And then
hiring your own people.
You're hiring your own people to support you.
And then there are people who aren't even, like, suited for the job. They're just going to agree with what he wants.
Yeah. And then let's bring in Epstein.
Oh,
we don't have to dive into it, but I'm just like, we know that he was in, like, the whole child sex
they had him murdered.
Yeah, they had him murdered. And there are photos with him and Trump and shit, just, like, all the time.
Yeah, and then he tried to say he didn't know him.
Yeah, he's, like, acting like he doesn't know him. I'm like, we've got allegations of you and these little girls at pageants, man.
Right, yeah.
You're telling me that you and Epstein didn't do all this shit?
There's a guy who worked on The Apprentice. I will look his name up right now, because he does this thing with Stephanie Miller. And I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. But I will tell you what his name is.
I'm gonna...
That dropped already? Wow, okay. That's not it. Ah, damn. I guess I must have deleted it. But he was a staffer on The Apprentice. And he talked about all these things that were the matter of the show from minute one before the thing from outer space became the host of the show, and how, like, they had to basically change his image around totally just to get him to that place where he would be able to, like, look like somebody who would do that, like this big business mogul. Like they had to refurnish his offices and redecorate and do all this other stuff in order to make it out just that he looked that way because he was broke. He had run through all of his father's money before he even got into this place where they were going to have him host the show. And so it's like...
It's dead.
It's dead.
It's fine.
Okay. Okay.
You
So
can take that off if you want.
okay. So he talked about that, but then it's like he went down the rabbit hole of like all the stuff that he was able to talk about now that he's ignoring the NDA that he had to sign when he became a staffer for the show, and he just spilled all the tea. And if you like to listen to podcasts, I would download Stephanie Miller's Happy Hour just to listen to this one this one episode. It was last week's episode, and I can't remember this man's name, but it is 35 minutes of you will sit there and just be like, what? I mean, it is really.
I've heard of the Happy Hour.
Yeah, and so she interviewed Steve Schmidt. It's not basically what it is that she has a show. She has her own show, political talk show in Los Angeles, and this is her history. Her dad ran with Barry Goldwater when he ran for president back in 1964, and got beat by Johnson. And so then her dad was a prosecuting attorney at Nuremberg. It was a big deal in that respect. And I guess they had a life in politics. Very Republican, very conservative. Well, she got a job, various jobs in broadcasting. She worked for a while in Chicago radio. She's like all over the United States. And somewhere in the late 90s, she came to grips with herself and realized that she was not a straight woman. She's gay. So she came out on air on this show that she was on, and her life took a whole turn. She became totally progressive and very liberal and started to do her own shows, and now she hosts a show out of her basement in Los Angeles. And she has a production team that works with her that are these two kooky these two kooky gay guys. One's name is Travis and the other one's name is Chris, and they're like these great big muscle geeks, if you can imagine, like these big muscular dudes who sit around and are as queer as $3 bills, and they talk about like comic books and video games and Pikachu, and they're so geeky, you know, but at the same time they're so what they are. And then she's got this little Weasley sound guy named Sean who throws in all the stings and the sound bites and all this other kind of stuff, and will say the occasional sardonic remark that is so funny you just have to like be like, okay. So and then she has various personalities, and so that's her thing. And so I started to listen to her show in early 2017 when I discovered Free Speech TV, and of course I went and downloaded the podcast. Now the podcast she used to do with her guests that she would have on, or people that she knew, and because there are no FCC regulations with the podcast, she can say whatever she wants. And she does for like 60 minutes. And she used to drink while she was doing them, and hence the name The Happy Hour. But now she doesn't drink anymore, but she's just as ribald as she was. And she had this one guy on whose name I cannot remember, and it is an amazing 45 minutes. So I strongly recommend listening to it, because you just will be like, what, really? Did he really say that? And then you'll think about it for 20 seconds, like especially with the Jeffrey Epstein thing and the beauty pageants. You'll be like, of course it happened. Of course it happened.
I mean, it presented with the information, you're like, there's no way it didn't. And then it's just like, oh, everyone's out. I hate whenever people are like, oh, it's like the Me Too movement. Everyone's out to get men. And I'm like, who the fuck's out to get men? Yes, there are false allegations out there.
To get the ones that did all the weird shit.
Yeah, we're trying to get like fucking...
We're trying to shut up people like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
We're just straight up trying to, I mean, there is no we. The people that present this information about like sexual harassment and stuff.
We just want to start holding people accountable.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's about being held accountable.
Yes.
It's like this is who they are.
Right.
They need to be held accountable.
Right.
I mean, it's like, I wish that, like, I'm really happy that COVID-19 hasn't gotten him sprung back to his mansion. I'm really happy for that.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. Because I can't believe that they've let the people out that they've let out.
What do you mean?
Harvey Weinstein was positive? Tested positive?
Yeah, but he's still in jail in New York City, in New York State, or wherever he is. So he's not going anywhere. Thank God.
Yeah.
But Manafort was released. And the prison he was at, there are no cases.
Tekashi 6ix9ine was released.
Who?
Okay, Tekashi 6ix9ine is like a trapper, a rapper. Do you know who
I don't know.
Tekashi 6ix9ine?
No.
Okay, well, Tekashi 6ix9ine, they call him a whistleblower because he ratted out like a bunch of people in, I don't know if it's a gang or like what's going on. I'm not really well versed in what it was, but he got arrested for like racketeering and stuff. And so what happened was he started telling on people.
Yeah.
And then he like reduced his sentence, and they let him out over this COVID-19 epidemic. And there's also like allegations of him with underage women.
So he won't last very long. Somebody will murder him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's only a matter of time, really.
And they won't really care. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But they released Michael Cohen was released. They held up his release a little bit. He was one of the first people who actually like told the truth about the whole $130,000 going to Stormy Daniels. Even though the higher courts were able to say that.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
That case has no validity. It's like, I think it's pretty damn obvious. Melania was pregnant and he was paying a porn actress to get in bed with him. I don't think it gets any more plain than that. I mean,
there's a whole lot of semantics there. It's weird how like the people will change very quickly. How they're like, you need to be held accountable for this, and you guys need to accept this, or you need to do this, and then they don't hold themselves or the people that they support to the same standard.
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, yo, dude, if someone that I support, if I found out that like Bernie Sanders like raped a woman or some shit,
He
like
would
that,
be held just as accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I would
be just
want
as
him to be.
right.
I would be like, no, that's not okay. Just because I supported, because I wanted him to be a president or anything like that, does not mean that like I don't want him to go to jail.
Right. Yeah. It's like if he's done something wrong, he's got to pay the price. I mean, nobody's above the law. That's why they were created, you know. And I mean, like, I guess I don't mind saying this. If you ever wondered about the judicial system in Michigan, but one of my uncles was accused and convicted of murder, and he spent the rest of his life in prison. And he was my uncle, and I loved him, but no one could disprove that he didn't. And he had to pay the price, and that's the end of it. I mean, maybe I would have felt a tad different if Michigan executed people, but I don't feel any different. And then, may as well opened up one door, open up one more. He did something to our family while he was in prison. Now, I don't know how the hell he managed to do this, but he did something after serving 16 years of his term, where he got people implicated in a drug running thing from Colombia in 1994. Now, how the hell you managed to do this in prison?
Networking.
Yeah, right. Far be it from me, but I'm like, well, if you would do that, and if you would put your beloved sister and one of your children in harm's way to do this, then I really don't think that murder's too far off.
Yeah, so
Right.
it kind of goes on the same track.
Wow. Yeah, you would destroy our family, so I guess you would kill somebody. So I guess you are in the right place, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like one of the last things I think was a mistake that my mother made by saying you have to forgive him. I have forgiven him, but he needs to be in prison.
Yeah.
And that forgiveness doesn't mean I'm gonna run up to him and be like, "Oh, how you doing? I can't wait to see you again." And blah,
Forgiveness
blah.
doesn't mean standing idly by.
That's why there's
what's
the
going on.
cliche: forgive, don't forget.
Yeah.
Right.
Forgive, don't
Right.
forget. 100%. Because there's been a lot of shit in my life that I've been like, I forgive you, but I'm not gonna forget it, and I'm not gonna let this be. I've removed people from my life. I used to live with. I'm not gonna say any names, but I used to live with a drug dealer. Two of them, and it was chill at first because I was like, as long as it's not in my house, like I don't really care. But then there was like the whole problem with like people coming into my house that I didn't know.
Right.
And then I'm like, I can't change the lock on my door. I can't put a lock on it because the landlords won't allow it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, and also stuff has been going missing from my room. I don't feel safe anymore. And then I tried to like present that information. I was like, hey, can we stop doing it in the house?
Right. Yeah.
And then like one of them freaked out on me, like tremendously, and he was like, you don't want me to make money and all this. jazz and all this shit. And I was like,
but I just want you to get me killed.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, dude, I'm just not comfortable in my living quarters.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
This is my space.
Right.
I'm like, I want you to be comfortable in it too. I want us all to be comfortable in it, but I'm not, and I'm sorry that it feels that way. And like, of course, we had like a yelling fit, and then I usually don't yell at people, but then I was like, maybe if I yelled back, that would help.
Right.
No, it didn't help.
No, it never works. It never works.
So then I
No.
stopped yelling at him, and I was like, listen, man, like, I'm just trying to figure this shit out. And I kept following him, trying to talk to him. I was like, not right now, dude. Like, really? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like sit around and wait until there's like the perfect moment. Like, we need to deal with this now.
Right.
Like, let's talk about this. And then we like talked about it, and he decided he didn't want to stop. And I was like, all right, well, that sucks. Can you like at least limit the amount of people at a time and stuff like that? And eventually, I just moved out.
Yeah.
That was the best thing.
Yes, I think so.
I think it was better. And like, and I had a bunch of other arguments with them, and then I was accused of stealing stuff from them. And then they contacted one of my friends, and then got him to contact my mother, and say that I stole money. I mean, I stole things. And that I stole weed, and that I what else was it? Owed them thousands of dollars. I did owe them like $200.
Yeah.
Because there was like a couple months where I couldn't pay not rent, but a couple of the bills there. And I was like, I'll pay you back when I can. And at the end of the year, I was able to.
Right.
And I did. And it was funny because like, whenever they contacted my mom and told them all the amounts and shit. And then I contacted her directly, and I was like, "Hey, how much do I owe you?" It was like $197 or $297 or some shit like that.
Right.
It was not thousands of dollars.
Well, yeah.
And I kept records of all the conversations we have. So if anything ever goes down and they want to say shit, like, I've got it.
Right.
I'm not trying to say names because I don't need them. No one needs to know their business.
That's true, but because it's like it's still probably rolling. Because I found the most interesting thing about this, with all the things that are deemed essential and non-essential, liquor stores are still essential.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's because like everyone's.
I don't want to go off somewhere yet. I was still gonna.
Okay.
I was still going somewhere.
Okay.
So even after all of that, and after I moved out, like, I had a whole lot of resentment for them. And I went back into therapy, and I was like, I need therapy because I've got problems in my head, and I need to deal with it. And they created a lot of problems, and I don't know how to deal with it. I'm going through my shit. So whenever that happened, I learned to forgive. Like, I don't even care anymore. I'm like, whoa, like, you did all that stuff, whatever, dude.
Yeah, right.
Like, you live your life, it's separate from mine, and I'm okay with that. Just as long as you don't mess with me, I don't really give a shit, and as long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah, but it's but man, it's like nobody should ever put you in harm's way, and you shouldn't have to live that way in order to get by, you know.
Right.
And it's very easy to I mean, I know it's important.
And they're gonna hear this. They're straight up because they still around.
Well, I find it's like, you know, it's this thing where when you're going out on your own, you're going into your own life, that you want to make your own world, your own subset of people to be with and everything like that. But it's like, it should not be effortful to cut them out of your life if they're not,
right.
You know.
Right.
And it shouldn't be.
I didn't even want
to
to.
go along with
I
that.
didn't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Well, it does suck. It's like, I think that's the third thing. There are three things I heard. The two things I heard that are very wise. It's hard to say two things, and it's hard to hear them. I don't love you anymore, and you're fired are two of the hardest things to hear. And there really are two of the hardest things to say, because you will find thousands of ways to try to tell somebody, I don't want you in my life anymore. It's hard.
It's hard.
You know?
And it was so hard to do that to them, because like, even though they weren't extremely close to me, I was just like, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to be. And I still see them from time to time.
Yeah.
Because a boy needs weed.
Right.
And like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, you live your life. You're not a bad person. I don't view you like that, and I don't. It's okay. And I don't like view you in any negative or bad sense. I just have realized I don't want to keep you in my life. And for my own.
That's what my therapist was kind of like I got really heavy drinking, you know, and it's like you have these friends that you love, but they're like. He was just like, but sometimes your friend, like, you have to choose friends that will be like beneficial to you, that will like help you grow and like learn and like better yourself. So like sometimes even if you love a person, it's just not beneficial to you to keep them in your life.
Right.
In that moment, at
and
least.
it's so hard to make that decision.
Of course.
Yeah, it is. And those are the questions that you don't want to have to ask of the world because you don't always think you're going to get a good answer, and you know you're not going to get a good answer.
Right.
But it's like, I guess you learn how to deal with it, but it's still difficult,
Yeah.
especially when you're trusting the waters. And it doesn't, and I'm here to tell you right now from where I sit, it does not get any easier. I remember when I was choreographer for this show and I had to fire one of the dancers because she was highly toxic. I cried.
Yeah.
It's like you just don't want to do it. It's
Right.
like because it's like it's like I think it's because you can you can see yourself in the other sea.
Absolutely.
You know,
Apathy.
Yeah,
Empathy.
Empathy.
Sorry, I was like,
apathy is what Mango Orangutan has.
Yeah, I was like, wait, empathy, my bad, redacted.
Up card. So yeah, it's like yeah. So I know for a fact it's like 5 to 3, and
That's
you were
okay.
supposed to go
Yeah,
to the
that's-
doctor like
Yeah,
an
wait.
hour ago.
Oh shit.
Is
They
that
probably called me.
They probably did.
Holy shit, I totally forgot about that.
I didn't realize it was so late.
Yeah.
I was gonna remind you when I got back from my house.
Yeah.
Shit, Zach!
Oh right, and you like totally need to like make that happen. Okay, so if you go, when will they send you? Or is this a
I'm
done
not
deal?
sure
When you
yet.
okay.
I'm not sure yet. So like, they still need to place me and everything.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna say goodbye. Thank you, Darryl, for coming on and talking today on our first podcast.
Yeah,
It was wonderful.
woo!
Yeah, nice. All right, see you.
Have me again.
Yeah, I will. See you later, guys.